Chapter 159. The war between the five nations is about to begin. The Yin state is at the moment of life and death. I don't want the Yin state to be destroyed in my hands. Therefore, I want to pass the imperial seal to you. Yin Emperor stared at Yen Chuan and said solemnly. As he spoke, a eunuch behind him came forward with a jade box. Clearly, the jade box contained the Yin state's imperial seal. Imperial Father. Yen Wuti exclaimed. Drinking the fine wine, Yen Chuan's gaze was focused as he stared at the Yen Emperor, analyzing whether the Yen Emperor was speaking the truth or not. Father, you are Yen Emperor. How can you? Yen Wuti said anxiously. Yen Emperor? No, Wuti. The Yen state was originally a king, and Yen Chuan was also the legitimate ruler of the Yen state. Yen Emperor shook his head. But. Yen Wuti was still unwilling to give up. Yen Emperor said in a low voice, No buts. In the royal family you are the only one with potential. Your brothers and sisters are useless. I originally wanted to pass the throne to you, but you have entered the Immortal sect and have a better future. You can't miss this opportunity. But. Yen Wuti was still frowning. If I hand the Yen state over to your brothers, it will be destroyed in the blink of an eye. No, even if I take control of the Yen state, it will be destroyed sooner or later. Only Yen Chuan, the emperor, can carry the banner of the Yen state. The Yen Emperor said solemnly. Yen Chuan stared at Yen Emperor in confusion. Your embroidered uniform army should be more than enough to fight against the armies of other countries. As for the participation of the immortal sects of other countries, you also have the Dai sect behind you. Although your father is dead, the Dai sect will not sit by and watch you die. As long as you are the emperor, the Dai sect will definitely protect the Yen state. As long as we strive for a few decades, Crown Prince Yen Wuti will have completely grown up. At that time he will be able to protect the Yen state for generations to come. Yen Emperor said with certainty. Yen Emperor spoke selflessly, but he couldn't fool Yen Chuan. He smiled and took a sip of wine. Father, Uncle Wang could have entered the Immortal sect and had the opportunity to live forever. How can he be trapped on the throne? Yen Wuti frowned and asked worriedly. Invincible. Yen Emperor's eyes widened. Imperial Father, I feel that this is unfair to Uncle Wang. Uncle Wang could have cultivated for a long time. If he became the emperor, he would be old after a few decades. It would be too late to cultivate then. Moreover, after a few decades, would the Dai sect still care about the favor of grandfather Yen Tao? Yen Wuti shook his head. Unfilial son. I am doing this for your own good. For the sake of the Yen clan. Yen Emperor said angrily. Yen Emperor originally wanted to use the righteousness of the Yen clan's bloodline to restrain Yen Chuan, but he didn't expect his son to undermine him. What you are doing is wrong. Yen Wuti said stubbornly. Ah. Yen Chuan suddenly laughed and interrupted the father and son's argument. The two frowned and looked at Yen Chuan. There is no need to argue. Thank you for your kindness. I can take the throne. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Really? Yen Emperor's eyes lit up. Yes. Yen Chuan nodded affirmatively. However, when he saw Yen Chuan nod, Yen Emperor didn't know why, but he suddenly felt a trace of reluctance and unwillingness. Then please accept the imperial seal. Tomorrow I will announce to the officials that you will ascend the throne on an auspicious day. Yen Emperor looked at the box with reluctance. Yen Chuan smiled and shook his head. Why are you going back on your words? Yen Emperor frowned. I originally wanted to establish a dynasty. My original plan was not necessarily to establish the Yen state. After all, you and I are of the same bloodline. I didn't want to fight with you. However, since you are willing to give up the throne, I will accept it. Don't worry. As long as I am alive, I will protect the Yen clan. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Chapter 160. Good. Yen Emperor smiled. But not now. Yen Chuan shook his head. Yen Emperor was slightly surprised. I have the opportunity to become an immortal cultivator and have entered the Dai sect. I want to ask you, do you want to enter the cultivation world? Yen Chuan asked seriously. Enter the cultivation world? Yen Emperor's eyes lit up, but then he said bitterly, who doesn't want to become an immortal? But my foundation is very poor. Your father also said that I didn't have the opportunity to become an immortal cultivator. Which immortal sect would accept me? Good. Give up the throne and I'll help you. It's a kind of compensation. Yen Chuan thought for a while and said, You help me? Yen Emperor was slightly surprised. If your foundation is poor, then you can use a lot of resources. Others need one but you can use 10. I'll lead you into the cultivation world and help you reach the chi state. What do you think? Yin Chuan smiled. How is that possible? Yin Emperor was overjoyed. What? You don't believe me? Yin Chuan smiled. No, I believe you. It's just that. Ha, you can eat the three-colored sacred cow on the drill ground. Yin Chuan laughed. You're giving it to me? You can have it. Cultivate well. When you reach the chi state, you'll have to rely on yourself. Yin Chuan nodded. When I reach the chi state, I'll be able to establish myself in the cultivation world. I don't need your help anymore. Yin Emperor said excitedly. Okay, then you can continue to deal with the affairs of the Yin state for me. Yin Chuan thought for a while and said, What? You're not going to ascend the throne now? Yin Emperor frowned. I'm going to the Day sect to take a look. When I'm done, I'll come back and ascend the throne. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. But Yin Di frowned. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, Besides, you'll need a lot of resources to reach the chi state. I need to get my father's things back. All right. Yin Emperor nodded. But there was still something on his mind. Don't worry, I have detained the emissaries of the 4 countries. I will take care of this matter. Before I go to the Day sect, I will take care of everything properly. You can rest assured and continue to be Yin Emperor. Yin Chuan said with a smile. All right, let me give you a toast. Yin Emperor smiled. Yin Chuan nodded. Yin Wudi looked at Yin Chuan in confusion. After the banquet, after sending off Yin Chuan, Yin Di and Yin Wudi stood at the door and looked at Yin Chuan's back. Father? Do you really believe Uncle Wang? Yin Wudi frowned. Yin Di narrowed his eyes. I can't believe all of his words, but I can't let go of this opportunity. He is different from you. He has Yin Tao's inheritance in the Day sect. He has a lot of cultivation resources. Since he promised to help me enter the cultivation world, I must fight for it. Although power is good, I need to be alive to enjoy it. Once I become immortal, what can I not have? Yin Di said in a deep voice. All right. Yin Wudi nodded. On the other side, Yin Chuan walked around the palace with Lu Jin. As they walked, Yin Chuan looked at the bright moonlight and his face showed a trace of satisfaction. Your Highness, I have already ordered people to tidy up the Emperor's palace. Lu Jin said from the side. Ah, what's wrong? I see that you have been holding back for a long time. Do you have something to say? Yin Chuan laughed. Old slave just doesn't understand why the Lord agreed to Yin Di's request. What's so good about being an emperor? This world belongs to immortals. Only immortality and immortality are the most important things. Lu Jin said with a complicated expression. Aha, you don't understand. Being an emperor is to become the most powerful immortal. Yin Chuan laughed. Lu Jin was stunned. Emperor? Immortal? Was there a connection? Old slave doesn't understand the Lord's meaning. But if the Lord wants to be an emperor, does it have to be in the Yin state? This will let Yin Di get so many cultivation resources. Lu Jin said with some reluctance. Aha, I am the rightful ruler in the Yin state. I can take advantage of the situation to sit on the throne. Why not go to the Yin state? A country and a sect are 2 different concepts. Although the Yin state is small, the country's system is complete. This is what I value the most. A complete system can save me a lot of trouble. I just need to strengthen it and strengthen it. As for those cultivation resources, it's nothing. Yin Chuan laughed. If that's the case, why didn't the Lord take the imperial seal just now? Lu Jin asked curiously. Taking a deep breath, Yin Chuan shook his head and said, It's not time yet. I have to go to the cultivation world. It's not to find a master to cultivate, but to recruit a group of truly capable people to help me conquer the world. Recruit people? Lu Jin was slightly stunned. That's right. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes, old slave understands. Lu Jin nodded respectfully. It's good that you understand. Tomorrow, gather all the information on all the ministers in the Yin state and give it to me. I want to see if there are any talents in the Yin state that I want. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Lord, rest assured. 2 days later, in the morning at the Emperor's palace, Yin Chuan washed up and walked out of the courtyard. Huo Guang and Lu Jin were waiting outside the courtyard. Huo Guang, have you made the arrangements? Yin Chuan stared at Huo Guang. Yes, my first army has been sent out in 3 groups. Each group has 900 people. They left Yanjing last night. There are only 300 people left in Yanjing for the Lord's command. Huo Guang said respectfully. Lord, there are only 900 people in each group. Can they complete the mission? Lu Jin was a little worried. This time, let's give them a chance to hone themselves. If a jade isn't polished, it won't amount to anything. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yes. The two of them answered. Let's go. We'll go to Xinglua Mountain Villa and meet the imperial tutor Yifeng? Yin Chuan said as he mounted his horse. Yes. The two of them mounted their horses. 100 people from the imperial tutor followed behind them. They galloped out of the city. Lord Yifeng is already old. What's the use of looking for him? Huo Guang asked, puzzled. Old people cherish their lives. Old people are dignified. When a person is about to die, they can see through many things. Besides, so what if he's old? He's 92 years old. He's just a kid in the cultivation world. In the past 2 days, I've read all kinds of records about him. Although he only wrote about how he succeeded, I could feel that there was a lot of planning before he succeeded. Plus, he's very famous. His disciples are all over the Yen state. If he's really thinking for me, he'll be a pillar of the country. Yin Chuan said with certainty. A pillar of the country? Lu Jin was surprised. Nothing is certain yet. This trip is to verify it. Yin Chuan said solemnly. If the Lord wants to see him, we can just summon him. Why do we have to go there personally? Lu Jin frowned. No, if he's a capable person, I'll pay him a visit personally. It's fine if we talk about it now, but don't be rude when the time comes. Yin Chuan said with a deep voice. Yes, old slave understands. Lu Jin immediately said respectfully. Go. A group of people galloped out of the city towards Xinglua Mountain Villa. Chapter 161. Yinjing, Prime Minister's residence. Changqing had been removed from his post, but because of the emperor's permission, he was still living in the Prime Minister's residence. In a large hall. Young miss, there's no need for the 5 of us to stay in the imperial court anymore. A scholar said to Meng Rongrong. Yes, we've gathered all the information. The operations of the imperial court and all the systems have been recorded. We can go back and report it to the principal. Another scholar said. Meng Rongrong sat at the head of the table, drinking tea as she looked at the 5 people from the Julu Academy. All? Meng Rongrong smiled. It should be all. Changqing nodded. Meng Rongrong shook her head and sighed. It's not all. I've seen this information and it shouldn't be of much use. Then what does the principal want? It's not good for us to go back to our countries now. Another person frowned. That's not right, young Mississippi. If you want to take us away, who can stop you? Changqing frowned. She shook her head. Meng Rongrong thought for a while and said, before coming here, I've traveled around the mortal world, but I've never seen an emperor like Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan? He's not an emperor. Changqing shook his head. Isn't he? Let's wait and see. Meng Rongrong smiled. Young miss, are we just going to wait? Changqing was puzzled. Wait. We won't wait. What's Yin Chuan doing recently? Meng Rongrong asked. Last night, more than 2,000 members of the embroidered uniform army left the city. Their whereabouts are unknown. As expected, this Yin Chuan is indeed bold. Meng Rongrong's eyes lit up. Young miss, where did the embroidered uniform army go? Just wait, you'll know soon enough. Meng Rongrong kept them in suspense. Early this morning, Yin Chuan led 100 members of the embroidered army and left the city. Looking at the direction, it should be the Star Luo Mountain Villa. Changqing said. Star Luo Villa? Is this the residence of the imperial tutor of 3 dynasties Yifeng? Meng Rongrong asked in surprise. Yes. Keep an eye on him. Meng Rongrong said calmly. Yes. East of Yinjing City. The forest was densely packed and there were many lakes. The scenery was extremely pleasant. This Grand Preceptor Yifeng really knows how to choose a place. This is the best place to retire. Lu Jin sighed. It's rare to see a brick road paved in the middle of a mountain forest. Huo Guang said in a strange tone. At the very least, you don't have to worry about not being able to find your way. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Soon, everyone saw the entrance of a valley in the distance. Beside the valley was a stone tablet. Star Luo Villa. A few household servants were standing at the entrance. However, they looked extremely proper. Lord, I heard that many of the household servants in Star Luo Villa used to be soldiers. Huo Guang said. Who are you? A household servant immediately shouted. Yen State's emperor is here. Why aren't you letting your master come out? Lu Jin shouted. Lu Jin, what did I tell you before we came? Yin Chuan frowned and said. Yes. Lu Jin immediately knew that she was wrong. Emperor's emperor? The household servant frowned. At this moment, a person beside him whispered, He is indeed the emperor's emperor. I saw him 2 days ago in Yinjing. Greetings to the Lord. The household servant immediately said respectfully. Yes. Is Grand Preceptor Yi Feng here? Yin Chuan said with a smile. The Villa Lord is here. Does the Lord want to see the Villa Lord? The household servant asked. That's right. Yin Chuan nodded. The Villa Lord is old. 3 years ago he announced that he won't see any outsiders. Unless. The household servant frowned. Chapter 162. How dare you? Lu Jin said angrily again. However, Yin Chuan waved his hand and stopped Lu Jin. Unless what? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Villa Master has not met anyone in recent years. Even when Yin Emperor invited Villa Master to his birthday celebration, Villa Master did not appear. In Xinglua Mountain Villa, apart from the servants and Villa Master's descendants, there is only one kind of people who can meet Villa Master. The best chess players in the world, the people who have reached the pinnacle of chess, can meet Villa Master after they have played chess with Villa Master and obtained his approval. The household servant explained. Play chess? Yin Chuan asked curiously. Yes. Villa Master is old and wants to do his favorite thing in his later years, which is playing chess. Right now there are dozens of chess masters in the valley outside the manor, playing chess with the manor head or solving the endgame. If your highness is interested, you might as well come with me. It's just that. The servant looked around at the embroidered uniform army. Okay, I'll go with you. Lu Jin, Huo Guang, and choose 4 more people to follow me in. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yes. Everyone dismounted. Yin Chuan and the others walked to the entrance of the valley. Lord, please. The household servant said respectfully. Okay. Following the household servant, Yin Chuan entered the valley. The valley was very large and there were some exquisite pavilions not far away. Dozens of people in loose robes were racking their brains to look at some Go boards. Clearly, these were the chess players that the household servant had mentioned. Some servants poured tea and water for everyone. On the other side of the valley, there was a narrow path. Clearly, there was a valley within the valley that could be entered. Some servants went back and forth to the valley within the valley. They're here. Master Yi's new chess pieces are here. The group of chess players immediately surrounded them. The 10 household servants who came out of the valley within the valley were quickly surrounded. Yin Chuan stepped forward. The group of Go players did not pay attention to Yin Chuan's group. After all, there were too many people who came here every day. When they got closer, Yin Chuan understood. There were a total of 10 Go boards arranged in a row. There was only one person sitting on each chessboard, as if there were no opponents. The 10 household servant who had just come out of the valley quickly placed chess pieces on the 10 chessboards. Master Yi, this is a brilliant move. Now that Master Yi has left, it won't be easy for us to place our pieces. Ah, you've lost. With Master Yi's move, you have no chance of making a comeback. The onlookers kept commenting on the 10 games of Go. What's the meaning of this? Lu Jin asked the household servant beside her. These 10 are the Go masters of their respective provinces. They came here to seek guidance from the Manor Lord. The Manor Lord fought against the 10 Go masters alone. This is already the 3rd day, and no one has been able to defeat the Manor Lord. They are tired, so they are resting in the surrounding houses. When they are free, they will come and play with the Manor Lord across the mountain, the household servant said proudly. Play across the mountain? Yin Chuan said with a smile. That's right. Look at these dozens of people. It's not just our Yen state. Jing state, Chu state, Han state, Wei state, and all the other countries' experts have gathered here. However, no one has been able to defeat the Manor Lord. The household servant said proudly. Fighting against the 10 Go masters alone? Grand Preceptor Yi Feng's Go skills are too amazing. Lu Jin said in surprise. Let's take a look first. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Yin Chuan looked at the chess pieces on the chessboard. Lord, in fact, the order of the chess pieces on each game is recorded. Would the Lord like to take a look? The household servant said with a smile. All right. Soon, the household servant returned with a piece of paper filled with Go stones. Every Go stone had a number on it, indicating the order in which the chess pieces were placed. Yin Chuan carefully looked at each piece of paper, and his expression turned increasingly grave. Chapter 163. When Xiaoqun finished reading all 10 pieces of paper, his gaze fell on the Go boards of the 10 Go games. He is indeed an expert. Yin Chuan said happily after letting out a long sigh. Lord, how is the Grand Tutor's Go skills? Wo Guang asked, feeling curious. Low-ranked Go players compete. They pursue victory and defeat, seeking instant benefits. Although their Go skills are strong, they are limited to skill and not the Go Dao. Middle-ranked Go players seek the Dao. Chess can nurture one's state of mind, absorb one's soul, and approach the Tao of chess. High-ranked Go players create the Tao, using momentum to set up the Go board, the mental state guiding the Go board. The Go board is the world. Placing a Go stone can mess up the hearts of the people. This Yifeng is already a high-ranked Go player. Unfortunately, these 10 Go masters are too weak. He lacks a true opponent, Yan Chuan said with certainty. We lost again. One of the Go masters lamented. I lost too. I lost this Go game as well. The 10 Go masters admitted defeat at the same time. How did the 10 of them lose at the same time? Hua Guang exclaimed in shock. That's because Yifeng controlled the entire Go board. Not only could his Go skills match the 10, but he could also accurately calculate the time. Yan Chuan said with a bright light in his eyes. To think that the Grand Tutor Yifeng's Go skills are so strong. Lu Jin exclaimed. Just at this moment, a household servant called out, All right, this game is over. Rest for 2 hours. After 2 hours, 10 more people can play against my manor lord. All right. The group of Go players answered. Is there a reason for this Go game? Yan Chuan asked the household servant who led the way. The lord wants to play against my manor lord? That household servant exclaimed. That's right. Yan Chuan said with a smile. According to our rules, solving 10 Go puzzles is enough. The household servant said. If that's the case, then let's arrange the 10 Go puzzles in a row. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Lord, our endgame is extremely difficult. Many people can only solve one endgame in a day. The household servant said strangely. It doesn't matter. Just set it down. Yan Chuan shook his head. Okay. The household servant looked at Yan Chuan strangely. Just as the 10 people finished playing chess, the household servant quickly called out to the other household servant and quickly arranged 10 endgame positions according to the chess manual. What are you doing? Endgame? Another newcomer? The group of Go players looked at the scene in surprise. The 10 household servant each stood on a chessboard, while Yan Chuan stood on one side and watched. Young man? Who is this young man? What a joke. He can solve 10 Go puzzles at the same time? Where did this hothead come from? Lu Jin and Hua Guang both looked worried. However, Yan Chuan was not worried at all. He looked at the Go puzzles and smiled. He casually grabbed a handful of black Go stones from the Go bowl and quickly placed them on a chessboard. Yan Chuan quickly placed a Go stone on the second chessboard. The third chessboard, the fourth chessboard, like flowing water, in the blink of an eye the Go stones were placed on all 10 Go puzzles. The group of Go players looked at Yan Chuan in astonishment. Is this a joke? Is he playing blindly? Does he have enough time to see the Go puzzles? Moreover, there are 10 of them. I've played this Go puzzle before. The first Go stone was placed like this. This young man is really lucky. Everyone was discussing. No one was optimistic about Yan Chuan's chances. Lu Jin and Hua Guang stared at the Go players as if warning them not to talk nonsense. However, the Go players did not care at all and continued criticizing them. Everyone, gentlemen, should watch the game without speaking. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The Go players' faces froze. Chapter 164. Naoibo Studio playing Yifeng. Everyone, gentlemen, should not speak while watching Go. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The expressions of the Go players froze. Everyone knew that one should not speak while watching Go. However, at this moment, everyone looked down on Yan Chuan's Go play. Hence they spoke up. However, Yan Chuan made it sound like they were not gentlemen but petty people. Everyone's faces immediately turned red. Some of them even glared at Yan Chuan angrily. The 10 household servant did not expect Yan Chuan to play so quickly. After being stunned for a moment, he started playing according to the Go record. Smack. 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 10 white Go stones were played. Yan Chuan grabbed another handful of black Go stones from the Go bowl. Smack. 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 Yan Chuan was no slower than the household servant. His movements were like flowing water, and in the blink of an eye, he played another 10 Go stones. The Go players all revealed stunned expressions. This person is really blind. One of the Go players said in disdain. However, before he could finish his sentence, he stopped himself. This was because he was the only one speaking. The others all remembered Yan Chuan's words, watch Go without speaking. For the sake of maintaining their poise, no one spoke. After that Go player's face froze, he looked at the Go board again. His expression remained angry. He waited for Yan Chuan to be defeated before slowly scolding him. Clack, 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 As the household servant played his go stones, he gaped in shock. This was because Yen Chuan played his go stones even faster than they did. Clack, 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 clack. As go stones continued to be played, the go masters turned increasingly serious. What's wrong? Is he playing blindly? Is he really solving the go? The go players looked at the go board in disbelief. But Yen Chuan placed another piece. The first game is over. It's been solved. A go master exclaimed in surprise. The second game has also been solved. The same goes for the third round. When Yen Chuan placed his last piece, all the go masters looked at Yen Chuan, but they were already silent. Alright, let's clean up the mess. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Good, the Lord is good at chess. The villa master will be very happy to know that he has another good opponent. The household servant who was leading the way smiled. Retreat. The household servant who was leading the way said to the people who were dealing with the aftermath. Yes. Everyone quickly retreated. The group of Go players also came to their senses at this moment. Who is this person? Everyone began to inquire. Yen Chuan didn't chat much with the crowd. Instead he found a chessboard and sat down. He waited for the second round to begin. The others discussed animatedly and more or less knew Yen Chuan's identity. The Emperor's equal? He is the Emperor's equal? Why is the Emperor's equal so young? The Emperor's equal is good at chess. With their strength recognized, the crowd no longer dared to act arrogantly in front of Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan sat at a go board and everyone thought that it was natural for him to sit there. After waiting for a while. Alright, it's about time. The second round will begin. As usual, the villa master will allow everyone to place their pieces first. A household servant called out. Place my pieces first? Yen Chuan smiled. He picked up a black piece. He placed his hand on the Tianyuan position. At the center of the go board. When the piece was placed on the Tianyuan position, it was as if a breeze was blowing from the go pieces, blowing away the dust. Chapter 165. At this moment, Yen Chuan had become the center of attention. Aside from the 9 players, almost all eyes were on Yen Chuan's go board. Divine Prime? How can it be Divine Prime? Someone exclaimed. Does he know how to play Go? His first move is Divine Prime? No one has ever dared to play like that before. What a waste. This move is completely useless. Everyone shook their heads. Lord, are you sure? Have you thought carefully about your first move? Why don't you rearrange it? The household servant advised kindly from earlier. Whoever placed the first move had the advantage. However, this advantage should not be wasted like that. There's no need. When I play Go, my first move has always been Divine Prime. Yen Chuan said, shaking his head. Everyone was confused. Always Divine Prime? What a joke. Who would play Go like that? Alright. That kind household servant smiled bitterly. He waved his hand, and the 10 household servant quickly recorded the moves and rushed to the middle of the valley. In the middle of the valley, a waterfall poured into the valley, revealing a large lake below. A gentle breeze blew, bringing with it a pleasant fishy smell. Flowers grew all around and many palaces stood tall. Birds sang and flowers bloomed, making this place look like a paradise on earth. Beside the lake stood a group of servants who were waiting on them. In the middle of a huge pavilion there were 10 chessboards. The 10 household servants were setting up the Go boards. There was a small pier by the lake. At this moment, a white-robed old man sat on the pier. The old man had white hair, white brows, and an aged face. He held a fishing rod in his hand. He sat there quietly as if he was in an ink painting. A middle-aged man stood behind the old man as he quietly fished. Grandfather, how are the Go skills of those 10 Go masters? The middle-aged man asked with a smile. The old man's expression did not change. He said indifferently, their Go skills are passable. The 3rd and 6th players improved their Go skills to a certain extent. Grandpa's chess skills have already reached the pinnacle of perfection. In the entire world no one can match him. These 10 people claim to be chess masters, but even when the 10 of them play together they are still no match for Grandpa. Furthermore, they don't know that Grandpa is actually playing blind chess. He didn't even look at the chessboard. He was fishing and playing at the same time. The middle-aged man sighed. Invincible? That might not be the case. It's just that our horizons are limited. Who can guarantee that there are no chess experts among the cultivators? They've lived for countless years and their skill in chess might not be inferior to mine. A look of longing and a sigh flashed across the old man's eyes. No, I believe that even those cultivators are no match for Grandpa. the middle-aged man said stubbornly. The old man smiled and continued fishing. Manor Lord, the first round is 4-4. A household servant reported. 43. The old man said without turning his head. The household servant behind him, who was in charge of the chessboard, quickly placed a piece according to the old man's instructions. Second round, tie 4. Another household servant called out. 44. The old man said indifferently as he fished. Third round. Fourth round. Every time a piece was placed, the old man would not even look at the chessboard. He would quickly announce the placement of a white piece. 10th round, Tianyuan. The last household servant reported. The old man was slightly taken aback. A household servant who had followed him immediately reported, Manor Lord, the person in the 10th round has an extremely special identity. He is. I don't care who he is. Did he solve the Go game? The white-robed old man asked indifferently. He solved it. Furthermore, he solved all 10 games in a short period of time. The household servant said respectfully. Chapter 166. Solving all 10 games at the same time? Ah, good. This old man has finally found a decent one. The white-clad old man said with a smile. Yes. For the 10th game I will play 3-5. The old man said after taking a deep breath without turning his head. Yes. The placement of Go stones in the middle of the valley quickly spread to the outer valley. In the outer valley, the top 10 Go players were quickly playing. Smack, smack, smack. The Go stones were quickly placed. In the blink of an eye it was noon. At this moment, most of the spectating Go players gathered around Yen Xuan. They could see the general trend of the other Go boards. However, Yen Xuan's Go board confused them. Are Master Yi and this young man playing Go? The two of them are going their own ways. How is this a game? That's right, this chess game is too scattered. No, this is a setup. The two of them are setting each other up. The game is too big. We can't understand it. Everyone watched quietly. In the distance, another group of household servants came to the middle of the valley. They quickly placed Go stones on the 10 Go boards. I lost again. Sigh, I was too careless. This game is messed up again. What a pity. On the first 9 Go boards, the 9 Go masters threw in their Go stones and admitted defeat with regretful expressions. Everyone looked at Yen Xuan's table. According to the previous rules, all 10 games would be thrown in at the same time. Now 9 games had been lost and the last game was still going on. It was still going on? Everyone was flabbergasted by this strange scene. Then they all gathered around. Yen Xuan smiled faintly and placed another Go stone. Clack. He placed another Go stone. The household servant quickly recorded it and ran to the middle of the valley. In the middle of the valley, the old man's fish float trembled. Clearly a fish had taken the bait. However, the old man did not seem to notice it. Manor Lord, all the first 9 games have been thrown in and they have admitted defeat, the household servant reported. What about the 10th round? Where did the 10th round land? The old man asked. Up to 85%. The household servant reported. Up to 85%? It's actually over 85%? The old man was slightly surprised. The household servant waited for the old man to announce his next move, but after waiting for a while, the old man did not speak. The household servant was surprised. Grandpa? The middle-aged man beside him asked in confusion. One had to know that his grandfather had never thought about playing chess for so long. The old man pondered for a while and remained motionless. Even the fish in the lake stole the bait and swam away happily. 43%. The old man finally confirmed. Yes. The household servant quickly ran out. At this moment in the outer valley, Yen Xuan stood up. It's noon, we should go back. Yen Xuan said indifferently. Yes. Lu Jin and Hua Guang answered. Lord, you're not done playing chess. A household servant was dumbfounded and immediately shouted. He had never met someone who left in the middle of a game. How could he leave? The game was not over yet. Imperial tutor Yi Feng and I have already arranged the troops. Next, the two sides will fight. Every move won't be easy. I'll have my subordinates stay here. If there are new pieces, inform me as soon as possible. I'll make my move then. Yen Xuan said indifferently. What? How is that possible? You're bragging. Master Yi still needs to think when playing chess? The Go master said in disbelief. At this moment, a household servant quickly ran over from the middle of the valley. 43. Manor Lord, make your move. 43%. The household servant said hurriedly. 43? Yen Chuan looked at the chessboard. After thinking for a while, Yen Chuan made another move. After leaving behind 4 members of the embroidered uniform army, Yen Chuan led Huo Guang and Lu Jin out of the valley. Let's go. Giddy up. Yen Chuan led the embroidered uniform army away, leaving behind the dumbfounded Go Masters. What's going on? The Go Masters were petrified. In the middle of the valley, Grand Tutor Yi Feng, who was holding the fishing rod, frowned at this moment. 46? 46? The old man pondered. Chapter 167. 3 days later in Beijing. In a tea house. There were 2 floors. The upper floor had a cubicle and the lower floor had a hall. Sitting in the cubicle, one could not only hear the people downstairs, but also see the beautiful scenery of the lake through the window. Crown Prince Yen Wudi, dressed in an ordinary black robe, sat on the second floor drinking tea. He listened to the noise below. Wang Wu, what's the latest news? Someone downstairs asked. A man in a scholar's robe was sitting in the middle eating a bun. Everyone was surrounding him. Now, there were only 2 things happening right now. First, all the medical centers in Yanjin were full. I don't know what's going on, but a lot of people in Beijing fell sick all of a sudden. Wang Wu sighed as he ate a bun. Yeah, my second uncle was still fine 2 months ago. He didn't have any trouble carrying a bag of rice. He had never been sick before. Now he suddenly collapsed. One of them made an excuse. I don't know if it's some kind of illness, but there are quite a lot of patients. There are a lot of people lining up outside each clinic. My third uncle is the doctor of Baoji Hall. He said that he couldn't find the cause of this illness. It's a strange illness. Everyone kept talking. There's one more thing. The emperor's equal has returned. Wang Wu said after some thought. Emperor equal to emperor? Crown Prince Yen Wudi, who was upstairs, immediately became interested. Emperor equal to the emperor? Who didn't know? That day I was at the city gate when Huo Guang broke through the city gate with a single spear strike. 3,000 embroidered army soldiers, how impressive. Yeah, I saw it too. It's nothing. What kind of news is this? Everyone in the city knows. Everyone was discussing, but Wang Wu gently shook his head. No, that's not what I want to talk about. The emperor's equal has gone to the Star Luo Mountain Villa. Do you guys know? Wang Wu said proudly. Everyone was slightly stunned. Everyone knows about Grand Preceptor Yi Feng's rules. Even the Yen Emperor can't meet him. Grand Preceptor is nearing the end of his life. He doesn't care about power. In his old age he only wants to play chess and do what he loves the most. Therefore, Xinglua Mountain Villa invited all the top Go players in the world, and countless national Go players came because of its reputation. Wang Wu said. Nonsense, Wang Wu, get to the point. One of them said impatiently. The emperor's equal has gone, and he is playing chess with Grand Preceptor Yi Feng across the mountain. Wang Wu said. That's not right. Wang Wu, you're bragging. I know the rules of the Star Luo Mountain Villa. How many days had it been? The emperor's equal hasn't solved all the games yet, right? How could he play against the Grand Preceptor? Someone asked in disbelief. Dissy, you don't believe me? The emperor's equal really played against the Grand Preceptor. My third brother is a household servant there. You don't know how incredible the emperor's equal is. He solved all 10 Go puzzles at the same time. In an instant he solved them all. Wang Wu said excitedly. That can't be right? Of course it's true. My third brother was in charge of playing according to the Go manual. However, he wasn't as fast as the emperor's equal. The emperor's equal didn't even need to look. Clack, clack, clack. He solved all the Go puzzles. If I had known, I would have gone to look as well. Wang Wu said excitedly. Then what happened after that? Everyone's interest was piqued. After that, of course, he played against the Grand Preceptor. Originally, there were 10 people playing against the Grand Preceptor. However, the first 9 were Go Masters. They couldn't even withstand a single blow and lost in the blink of an eye. Only the emperor's equal is still playing. He never stopped. Even today he still hasn't finished that game. Wang Wu sighed. Chapter 168. Bullshit. No one can compare to the Grand Tutor's Go skills. He won in 2 hours. How could the Emperor equal King play for 3 days and 3 nights? Someone said in disbelief. Don't doubt it. The Emperor equal King is awesome. He returned at noon that day, saying that the Grand Tutor needs to think before he plays. He will send someone to inform him when he has thought of a move. Then he will make his move and have someone send the message back, Wang Wu said proudly. Wouldn't that be like the emperor equal king sitting at home and the grand tutor sitting in the valley, playing Go from a distance? Of course. Furthermore, the emperor equal king's Go skills are clearly no weaker than the grand tutor's. It has been 3 days and 3 nights and no one can determine a winner, Wang Wu said. He's that good? Someone exclaimed. Of course. I've also heard that none of the chess masters from the Star Luo Mountain Villa are playing chess anymore. They are waiting for the 2 of them to make their move every day. They are waiting impatiently. Every time the messenger comes to make his move, those chess masters don't even dare to breathe loudly. They are just watching, Wang Wu said. Really? Of course. Do you know that Go master from Yanjing? Wang Wu said proudly. Of course I do. That Go master only acknowledges the grand tutor. He does not acknowledge anyone else. However, after watching for 2 days he no longer dares to watch. He only dares to watch after resting for a day, Wang Wu said. What do you mean? Is he tired? Of course he is not tired. He said that the Go game is too big and he feels dizzy from watching it. He can't hold on anymore, Wang Wu said proudly as if he was standing beside the Go game himself. Is that good? Of course. This Go game stunned all those Go masters. How can he not be good? Who knows how long this Go game will last? Wang Wu said confidently. The emperor equal king is really good. While the commoners discussed the situation downstairs, Crown Prince Yen Wudi frowned upstairs. Go and ask what Uncle Wang has been doing these days, Yen Wudi said to a subordinate behind him. Yes. The subordinate quickly went downstairs and left the restaurant. After a while he came back. Once again he came to Yen Wudi's private room. Reporting to the Crown Prince, I have asked the people in the city. It is said that the emperor equal leaves the city early every day and comes back in the evening. Moreover, the gate he goes through is different every day. No one knows what the emperor equal is doing. The subordinate said. Oh, you didn't play chess? Yen Wudi asked doubtfully. Yes, it's just as Wang Wu said. The emperor's pieces are constantly being sent to the Star Luo Villa. So you're saying that Uncle Wang is playing chess while going out to do something? Yen Wudi asked in confusion. Should be. The subordinate said respectfully. Inform me when Uncle Wang returns tonight. I'll go see Uncle Wang. Yen Wudi thought for a while and said. Yes. The subordinate immediately replied. Go. In the south of Yanjing, Yen Chuan led 100 members of the embroidered uniform army and galloped. Following a mountain path, the Fergana horses climbed to the top of the mountain with difficulty. Stop. Yen Chuan pulled the reins. The 100 Fergana horses all stopped. Sitting on the horse, Yen Chuan looked at the surrounding mountains and rivers. Gradually he looked at the bustling Yanjing in the distance. Lord, what are we looking for these days? Lu Jin didn't understand. Yen Chuan looked at Yanjing and smiled. I'm looking at the surrounding terrain. Yanjing might be our headquarters in the future. The surrounding mountains are extremely important. I have to know what to do. Chapter 169. What about the surroundings of Yen capital? Lu Jin asked curiously. Overall it's not bad. Unfortunately there are too few dragon veins. There are only 4 of them. When I establish my country these dragon veins will definitely not be enough. I still need to find someone to bring over 100 dragon veins for the capital to form 100 dragon worshipping pattern. Only then can we suppress the great Yen dynasty and leave a legacy for 10,000 years. Yen Chuan said. Yes. Lu Jin might not understand but that didn't stop her from worshipping him. Da-da-da-da. 2 horses galloped over from afar. Dust flew everywhere as they passed. Oh, Yifeng made another move? Yen Chuan's eyes lit up. Set up the chessboard. Lu Jin ordered the 2 embroidered uniform soldiers. Yes. The 2 embroidered uniform soldiers quickly took down the chessboard on their backs and placed the chess pieces in order. They placed the chess pieces on a large rock. Yen Chuan got off his horse. The 2 horses also approached from afar. Lord, the Grand Tutor has made a move. 2-2. The embroidered uniform soldiers hurried over and said. 2-2? Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. Lu Jin quickly placed a white chess piece on the 2-2 position. Yen Chuan sat on the large rock and stared at the chessboard as he pondered. No one dared to disturb him. About half an hour later. Good move. 2-2? You finally can't hold it in anymore? Yen Chuan said with a smile. As he spoke, Yen Chuan took out a black chess piece and placed it on a hole on the chessboard. Ping 44, eat your 3 pieces first. Yen Chuan said with a smile. After he placed the chess piece, 3 white pieces were eaten. Go, Ping 44. Yen Chuan said to the embroidered uniform soldiers who were rushing over. Yes. The two quickly rode their horses away. Xing Luo Mountain Villa, Outer Valley. A chessboard was placed in the middle. A group of Go masters sat cross-legged in the surroundings, all of them racking their brains for the Go puzzles on the Go boards. Meng Rongrong, Changqing, and the other 5 had also arrived at the valley and were quietly staring at the chessboard. Meng Rongrong was mesmerized. Changqing and the other 4 Julu Academy students frowned as they stared at the chessboard. Young mistress, this chess game, their chess skills? Changqing smiled bitterly. What do you think? Meng Rongrong asked. Changqing smiled bitterly, shook his head and said, It's me. I underestimated the people of the mortal world. In this game of chess, whether it's the black or white pieces, I'm no match for them. That's right. Even among the students of the academy, his chess skills are among the best. Meng Rongrong said in a strange tone. Go. The sound of a horse came from outside the valley. It's coming, it's coming. The group of Go masters immediately got up from the ground and looked at the entrance of the valley with sparkling eyes. Because of this game of Go, the 2 embroidered uniform soldiers didn't need to dismount from their horses outside the valley. They rode directly into the valley. The Lord has placed a piece. Level 44. One of the embroidered uniform soldiers shouted from his horse. Level 44? The embroidered uniform soldier beside the chessboard quickly placed a black piece. Plop. When the black piece was placed, everyone stared at the chessboard. More and more pieces were placed and the chessboard became deeper and deeper. Some of the entranced players stared at the chessboard as if they were possessed. Looking at the chessboard, it was as if they were looking at a whirlpool that sucked in the minds of the Go masters. One of the Go masters, by May, even had his face flushed red. He stared at the chessboard as if he was sucked into it. Level 44, take 3 pieces first. The embroidered uniform soldier took the white piece that was swallowed by the black piece. PFFF. Bai Mei suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell down. Master Bai, what's wrong? The surrounding Go players were flustered. Bai Mei withered and smiled bitterly. This old man actually vomited blood because of watching a game of Go. This game of Go is no ordinary game. I'm not even qualified to watch it. Chapter 170. The Dugu Sword Emperor's injury. The next day the sky was still dark. North of Yanjing City. Hiya. Yen Chuan led a group of people to the peak of a mountain. Whoa. He pulled the reins and everyone stopped. There was another person beside Yen Chuan this time. Crown Prince Yen Wudi. Hua Guang and Lu Jin reined in their horses, leaving Yen Chuan and Yen Wudi to look at Yanjing City in the distance. Uncle Wang's Go skills are indeed shocking. Xinglua Mountain Villa sent news that 3 Go masters vomited blood after watching the game. Yen Wudi sighed. Them? They forcefully comprehended the game when their cultivation wasn't high enough. Naturally, their minds were damaged. Moreover, their minds were focused on Yifeng's white pieces. When my black pieces killed, they naturally felt it. The impact of my Go stones drained him mentally and physically. Yen Chuan said indifferently. I already witnessed Uncle Wang's Go skills last night. I wonder why Uncle Wang called me here this morning? Yen Wudi asked. I'll show you something later. Yen Chuan said seriously. Something? What do you mean? Yen Wudi didn't understand. It's going to be dawn soon. You'll know soon. Yen Chuan shook his head and didn't say anything. All right. Yen Wudi nodded helplessly. Let me ask you. When I took down the representatives of the 4 countries that day, other than Changqing and the others in the sky, were you and the Dugu Sword Emperor also there? Yen Chuan asked. Huh? How did Uncle Wang know? Yen Wudi was slightly surprised. Could it be Yen Chuan who found out? But at that time he didn't show himself, so how could he have found out? Yen Chuan smiled and said, as long as it's the Dugu Sword Emperor. What does Uncle Wang mean? What's the Dugu Sword Emperor doing in Beijing? Yen Chuan asked. This. Yen Wudi frowned and didn't know if he should say it. That day in the Feng Shui formation, the Dugu Sword Emperor was chasing after a Feng Shui master with a sword. At that time he shouted poisoner. The poisoner didn't die, so the poisoner should be in Yanjing, right? Yen Chuan asked. How did you know? Yen Wudi asked in surprise. This poisoner is a scourge. Yen Chuan said with a gloomy expression. Uncle Wang, how did you know? Master has been looking for poisoner for the past few days, but he still couldn't find him. Uncle Wang, do you know where the poisoner is? Yen Wudi asked seriously. I'm not sure. Yen Chuan shook his head. Sigh. Yen Wudi sighed. At that moment, The first rays of the morning sun appeared in the east and shone in all directions. The sun is out, Yen Wuti said. Look at Yanjing. Yen Chuan shouted. Yen Wuti looked in the direction of Yanjing curiously. Early in the morning, Yanjing was shrouded in a faint mist. It was like a fairyland. The sunlight quickly dispelled the darkness and shone through the mist in the city. Under the sunlight, a faint green light flashed in the mist. The green light was hazy, but it only appeared for a short time. In just a few breaths, the green light disappeared. That is? Yen Wuti was confused. Did you see it? The green light that shrouded Yanjing. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, I saw it. What was that? I've never seen it before. Yen Wuti was confused. That is the poison light. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Poison light? Yen Wuti didn't understand. Are there more and more sick people in Yanjing recently? Yen Chuan asked. Yes, I've heard about it. All the medical centers are full of people now. No one knows what's going on. Yen Wuti immediately looked at Yen Chuan. Chapter 171. This is a feng shui array. Someone set up this feng shui array in Yanjing and is spreading poison throughout the city. Yen Chuan said. The entire city? Yes, the entire city. Feng shui poison is different from normal poisons. Some feng shui poisons are alive. This poison is still growing. Once it matures, it will empty the entire city. Yen Chuan said. Empty the entire city? What do you mean? Yen Wuti seemed to have guessed something. 2 million people in Yanjing will be poisoned to death in one night. No one will be left alive. Yen Chuan said. Yen Wuti was shocked. I think you have already guessed it. This should be the work of the poisoner. Yen Chuan said coldly. Why would he do that? Yen Wuti asked with an ugly expression. I think the poisoner must be severely injured. He wants to poison everyone in Yanjing to death and extract millions of souls to heal his wounds. Heal his wounds? I don't understand. But Uncle Wang, these are 2 million lives we are talking about. They are all citizens of Yanjing. Since you have already guessed it, you should have a solution, right? Yen Wuti said anxiously. There is a solution, but I need the cooperation of the Dugu Sword Emperor. Take me to the Dugu Sword Emperor. Tell him that I have a way to find the poisoner. Yen Chuan said. Before Yen Wuti could say anything, suddenly a voice came from the sky. You have a way to find the poisoner? The voice was filled with urgency. Ka. The Imperial Secret Army quickly knocked their bows and aimed at the sky. Yen Chuan waved his hand and stopped the archers. The Dugu Sword Emperor slowly descended from the sky with a long sword on his back. Master. Yen Wuti said in surprise. Dugu Sword Emperor, are you following us? Yen Chuan asked coldly. My disciple left before dawn, so of course I had to follow him. However, what did you mean by that? Can you find poisoner? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked anxiously. Yen Chuan coldly stared at the Dugu Sword Emperor. After a moment of silence, he nodded. How do we find him? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked in delight. Yen Chuan dismounted. Everyone followed suit and dismounted. Lu Jin, boil the tea. Yen Chuan said. Yes. Lu Jin replied immediately. He took out the spatial scroll, took out the table and chairs, and quickly boiled some tea with a small stove. Huo Guang ordered the soldiers to retreat to the side. Since you're here, it saves me the trouble of looking for you. Have a seat. Yen Chuan said. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Yen Wuti also sat down. Soon, Lu Jin finished boiling the tea and poured tea for the three of them. I want to know why you want to kill Poisoner. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Why are you asking this? The Dugu Sword Emperor frowned. If it was anyone else, I would be too lazy to ask. However, this is Poisoner. That day he was together with Shinkuan Kuroha, so they were clearly on the same side. Rumor has it that Shinkuan Kuroha was one of the murderers of my parents. How would I know if Poisoner was one of them? I might have a grudge against him, but I have my own principles. Grudges must be taken by myself. Thus, I need to get to the bottom of this. At the very least, you need to convince me to give him to you. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Are you confident that you can find Poisoner? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked in surprise. Yen Chuan's tone was full of certainty. The Dugu Sword Emperor couldn't help but be cautious. It's up to you. Yen Chuan said with a smile as he sipped his tea. Fine. There's nothing to hide. The Dugu Sword Emperor said with a bitter smile. I'd like to hear the details. Yen Chuan nodded. 200 years ago, I traveled the world with my sword, searching for experts to hone my swordsmanship. One time I killed a ferocious demon. However, I almost died in that battle. I was severely injured and flew away from the scene. In the end, I fainted in a valley. The Dugu Sword Emperor recalled. That was the worst time in my life. There were many demonic beasts in the forest. If it wasn't for her, I might have died in their stomachs. Her? Yan Chuan asked. She was the daughter of the gate master of Chiba Gate. She found me and took care of me. I still remember that it was a valley full of lilies. When I woke up, the first thing she asked me was, "Are you hungry?" The Dugu Sword Emperor recalled with a smile. During the half year that I was recovering from my injuries, she came to take care of me every day. Although I knew her intentions, I was too competitive at that time. After I recovered, I took my sword and left. I wanted to continue challenging experts from all over the world, to hone my swordsmanship. You left just like that? What happened to her? Yen Wudi was puzzled. I told her that the lilies would accompany her on my behalf. Seeing the lilies would be like seeing me. I also promised that I would visit her once every 5 years. The Dugu Sword Emperor said with a shaky voice. He clenched his fists as if he was filled with regret. What happened after that? After that, I went to visit her as promised. Every 5 years I would visit her once. She was also very silly. She kept waiting for me. She kept waiting for me. Until 20 years ago. The Dugu Sword Emperor trembled. His eyes were bloodshot and slightly moist. What happened 20 years ago? 20 years ago, I was supposed to visit her. However, because of a long-awaited battle, I delayed it for half a year. Half a year later, when I arrived at Chiba Gate again, the Dugu Sword Emperor couldn't control his emotions. Tears flowed down his cheeks. What happened to Chiba Gate? The entire Thousand Leaves sect was massacred, and not a single one was spared. As for her, she was nailed to the gates of the Thousand Leaves sect. Even before she died, she was still holding onto a bouquet of lilies. The Dugu Sword Emperor crushed the teacup in his hand. His face was filled with pain. Tears fell from his eyes. She didn't know how to cherish things when she was alive. Only after she died did she realize how precious things were. Yen Chuan sighed. I only found out later that during the 6 months that I was late, she stood at the mountain gate every day. She looked at the lilies and waited for me. On the day of Chiba Gate's destruction, she was holding onto the lilies and waiting for me. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and her heart was filled with sorrow. But if I didn't participate in that battle, this wouldn't have happened. The Dugu Sword Emperor trembled. He was sobbing uncontrollably. Yen Chuan and Yen Wudi were both silent. Seeing the arrogant Dugu Jianwang shedding tears at this moment, the two of them didn't look down on him at all. They only felt sympathy for him. Was Poisoner? Yen Wudi asked with hatred. Yes. The leader of the group that destroyed Chiba Gate was Poisoner. 10 years later, I killed everyone except for Poisoner. This enmity is absolutely irreconcilable. The Dugu Sword Emperor roared. You chased after Poisoner for 10 years? Yes. I will definitely take revenge. If you can help me find him, I will do my best to help you with one thing. The Dugu Sword Emperor said. All right. Poisoner, I will help you find him. I don't need to do anything else. You just need to teach my nephew well. You just need to guide him with all your heart. Yen Chuan said. Oh, Uncle Wang? Yen Wudi looked at Yen Chuan in surprise. All right. I will let Wudi inherit the Dugu family's secret. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Chapter 172. If you can't find Poisoner, there's only one possibility. He's somewhere underground in Yanjing, and he's using Earth Qi to conceal his presence. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. That's right. The Dugu Sword Emperor calmed himself down and nodded. He wanted to poison the entire city, so he set up a feng shui formation. When he released the poison, he also exposed a flaw. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. What are you going to do? Set up the formation. Help me set up another formation. Using formation against formation, not only can we clear out the poison in the entire city, we can also quickly find his location. Yen Chuan said solemnly. I don't know feng shui formation. The Dugu Sword Emperor shook his head. I can do it. Yen Chuan said with a smile. All right, tell me what to do. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Since you're a swordsman, your swordsmanship must be unique. There are 4 dragon veins around Yanjin and we're standing on the tip of one of them. Now carve this mountain into the shape of a dragon's head. The dragon's head is facing Yanjin and roaring. Yen Chuan said. Under our feet? The Dugu Sword Emperor frowned as he looked at Yen Chuan. I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, I didn't know you were coming. It's just a coincidence that I brought Yan Wudi here to overlook Beijing. Yan Chuan shook his head. The Dugu Sword Emperor was relieved. Let's go down the mountain first. You can observe this stone mountain and then start carving. Yan Chuan said. Lu Jin quickly tidied everything up. Go. The group of people quickly rode their horses down the mountain. In the blink of an eye, they were already several miles away. At another small hill, the group stopped. They looked into the distance together. The Dugu Sword Emperor stared at the entire mountain and pondered for a moment before narrowing his eyes. Shing. As soon as the treasured sword appeared, a sword light immediately cut off a corner of the mountain. Shing, 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 shing. A series of sounds of swords clashing could be heard as beams of sword light shot towards the mountain peak. Rumble. A large amount of crushed stones flew from the mountain top, and smoke and dust soared into the sky. Thick dust billowed and covered the mountain peak in the blink of an eye. Rumble. The Dugu Sword Emperor didn't stop for even a moment as he slashed madly. Lord, the Dugu Sword Emperor acted so quickly. Could he have made a mistake? Lu Jin asked worriedly. Fast? For a sword cultivator, this speed is slow. He won't make a mistake. At his current level, the sword and him have already become one. Yan Chuan shook his head. Yes. Lu Jin nodded. Boom. After a final loud bang, the rumbling stopped abruptly. Oh. The Dugu Sword Emperor waved his hand and a gust of wind blew past. In the blink of an eye, all the dust in the area was blown away. Oh! Yan Wudi exclaimed in surprise. The original mountain peak disappeared and was replaced by a giant dragon head. The dragon head was as tall as a mountain. Its eyes were wide open as it roared majestically towards Yan Jing. So powerful! Lu Jin exclaimed. Let's go. Hiya. The group returned to the top of the dragon head. Is it done? The Dugu Sword Emperor flew over and asked. Yan Chuan ignored him. Instead, he took out the Jade Emperor's sword and stabbed it into the dragon head's forehead. Shing. The dragon head's forehead was pierced. After pulling out the Jade Emperor's sword, Yan Chuan cut his finger and dripped some blood into the wound. Buzz. The dragon head mountain suddenly trembled slightly. What are you doing? The Dugu Sword Emperor was puzzled. Blood guide. I am not a feng shui master, so I need to use my blood as a guide to activate the feng shui array. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 173. Oh. The Dugu Sword Emperor still didn't understand. Hua Guang, find a rock that's about 10 feet in size from the rocks that were cut off. Yes. Soon a large rock was brought to him. Looking at the rock, Yan Chuan flipped the Jade Emperor sword in his hand. TSK 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 TSK. The Jade Emperor sword flipped, and the rock was cut into the shape of a dragon's head. It looked exactly the same as the dragon's head that the Dugu Sword Emperor had cut out. Good swordsmanship. The Dugu Sword Emperor exclaimed. Yan Chuan pressed his finger on the dragon's forehead, and fresh blood stained the dragon's forehead. Send this dragon's head to the Yanjing drill ground. Guard it and don't let anyone touch it. Yan Chuan said to the 10 embroidered uniform army soldiers. Yes. The 10 embroidered uniform army soldiers carefully carried the dragon's head away. All right, the first dragon's head is done. There are 3 more to go. Dugu Sword Emperor, let's go. Yan Chuan said. All right. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Star Luo Mountain Villa. In the valley. A white-robed old man, Grand Tutor Yi Feng, slept on the pier in a carefree manner. A few household servants were carefully waiting on him. Yi Feng's grandson was also waiting. Yi Feng yawned and woke up. Grandfather, you're awake. The middle-aged man immediately went forward. How long have I been sleeping? Yi Feng asked. 8 hours. The middle-aged man immediately replied. 8 hours? I'm getting old. Yi Feng smiled bitterly. Grandfather, breakfast is ready for you. Okay, I'll eat here. Yi Feng said. Yes. Soon, the household servants brought in a large amount of food. Yi Feng ate his breakfast and asked, did he make his move? Yes. Oh? Which step? Yi Feng's expression brightened. Grandpa, you eat first, then. Ah. Let's talk about it. His ghost stones are the best delicacies. Yi Feng laughed. It's Ping Bailiu. Ping Bailiu? Pressing on step by step. Yi Feng's face suddenly turned solemn, and the food on his chopsticks also stopped. Grandpa, you'd better not think about it. After dinner, let's go look at the chessboard. You can play against the chessboard and soon you'll be able to beat him. No, blind chess it is. I have 1 foot in the grave and it was not easy for me to meet my match. How can I let it go to waste? Ah. Yifeng said happily. In the outer valley, fewer and fewer people were watching the game. The group of Go Masters no longer had the energy to continue watching. The Go Masters could only smile bitterly. Vomiting blood from watching chess? What a joke. But that was the truth. Unless you didn't look at it seriously, as long as you used your heart to experience it, your mind would immediately sink into it until you collapsed. However, the Go Masters noticed that 1 woman and 5 men had been staring at the Go board all this time. It was Meng Rongrong, Changqing and the other 4. At this moment there were no new Go stones. The 6 sat in a corner. First, young miss, I can't take it anymore. I'm getting dizzy from looking at the chessboard. One of them said with a bitter smile. This game is already far beyond your level. You'd better not watch it. Meng Rongrong said while shaking her head. Yes. That person said with a bitter smile. Changqing also showed a strange expression. He said, First, young miss, I really did not expect Yifeng and Yan Chuan to be so strong in Go. They are so strong that only the great scholars of the academy can compare to them. Indeed, these 2 have very high cultivations. They are extremely rare in the immortal cultivation world. Furthermore, Meng Rongrong said with a frown. Furthermore what? Changqing asked, feeling curious. Chapter 174. Yifeng is playing blind chess. Meng Rongrong said solemnly. Blind chess? That's impossible. Changqing said in surprise. Blind chess meant that one didn't look at the chessboard and remembered every move. It was fine if one didn't make many moves, but now Yan Chuan and Yifeng had played hundreds of moves. It is indeed blind chess. When I left earlier I went to investigate. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Huh. Everyone was speechless. How can there be such a monster among mortals? Changqing was speechless. It would be a pity not to recruit such a talent into the academy. Meng Rongrong suddenly said. Milady? His bone structure was extremely poor. Moreover, he was already 92 years old. He was already shriveled and old. Even if he was given enough resources, 10 times or 100 times more resources, he still wouldn't be able to transcend the tribulation. A single bolt of lightning would be enough to shatter him. It's useless. Changqing said. Useless? Not necessarily as long as I want to. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Pills? Essence-boosting pills? But these pills are extremely precious. 1 essence-boosting pill can be exchanged for spirit stones and resources, enough to create 2 immortal state warriors. If we use them on him, will it? Changqing frowned. Waste? No, it won't. He's worth it. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Okay. The 5 people were envious. When this game is over, I'll go see him and try my best to recruit him into the Julu Academy. Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. Don't worry, milady. Yifeng has been searching for immortality all his life. Now that milady has taken a liking to him, it's his fortune. He'll definitely be grateful to be able to cultivate in the academy. It's his honor. Changqing said affirmatively. Meng Rongrong nodded. Yan Jin, drill ground. The bloodstains from the massacre a few days ago had been cleaned up. According to Yan Chuan's request, the 100 embroidered army soldiers placed the 4 dragon heads in 4 different positions on the drill ground. The dragon heads faced each other, glaring at each other. Yan Chuan, Yan Wudi, and the Dugu Sword Emperor stood in the center of the 4 dragon heads. This is? The Dugu Sword Emperor asked curiously. This is called the 4 Dragons Matrix. These 4 small dragon heads corresponded to the 4 dragon veins and were contaminated with the dragon aura of the 4 dragon veins. I activated the 4 dragon array, and the 4 dragon veins poured their dragon energy into Yanjing, forcing all the feng shui poison here. If the poison of feng shui can't spread, it will flow back to where the poisoner is. At that time you can follow the poison of feng shui and find the poisoner. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Good. You may begin. The Dugu Sword Emperor said excitedly. Not now. Let me wait a few days. Yan Chuan shook his head. Wait a few days? Why not now? The Dugu Sword Emperor didn't want to wait any longer. The sooner he killed the poisoner, the better. He couldn't wait to see the poisoner. 1 or 2 days at least, 5 or 6 days at most. You've already waited for so many days. A few more days won't matter, right? Yan Chuan refused. The Dugu Sword Emperor stared at Yan Chuan and fell silent. All right. The Dugu Sword Emperor had no choice but to nod since he had a request. After sending the Dugu Sword Emperor off, Lu Jin asked in confusion, Lord, why do we have to wait a few days? Yan Chuan looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. Soon we'll be there soon. Ha! Lu Jin was at a loss. Go to the prince's mansion and move all the daily necessities here. I'll be staying in the drill ground for the next few days. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Lu Jin didn't understand, but she still obeyed. Chapter 175. 3 days later in Xinglua Mountain Villa. The valley within the valley. Sitting on the pier, Yifeng closed his eyes and pondered. His entire person was like a statue, not moving at all. Young master, Manor Lord has already been thinking for 4 hours. A servant said with an ugly expression. Have you figured out the background of the emperor? The middle-aged man in the Chinese robe asked. We have compiled all the information and sent someone to Yanjin. We will report to you as soon as there is any new information. The household servant said respectfully. How can he play so well with Grandpa after running around every day? The middle-aged man asked. I don't know either. However, none of the Go masters in the Outer Valley dared to look into the game. All they do now is record the moves and replay the game. However, none of them have made more than 100 moves. This game will be passed down through the ages. It is normal for them to record it. The middle-aged man nodded. The Go masters don't dare to watch the game, but there is a girl who keeps an eye on it. The household servant said. A girl? Yes. I have sent someone to look into it. This girl is with Prime Minister Chongqing. She descended from the sky with Chongqing the other day. I think her name is Meng Rongrong. She is from the Gate of Heaven. The household servant said excitedly. Gate of Heaven? And she can fly? She is at least in the Qi state. The middle-aged man exclaimed. Yes. Remember, treat that girl well. Also, if she has any requests, inform me immediately. The middle-aged man said excitedly. Yes, I will remember. As the two of them whispered, not far away, Yifeng, who was by the lake, slowly opened his eyes. Collapse, it's going to collapse. Yifeng frowned. Grandpa? What collapse? The middle-aged man walked over immediately. This game of chess is about to collapse. If it's not me, then it's him. A general builds his success on the bones of 10,000. The great collapse this time, one side completely crushed the other side. I only have 3 positions that I can take right now. Which one? Yifeng pondered and said. Grandfather? All right, let's bet everything on this. Yifeng said with a cold look in his eyes. Go up 37. The household servant quickly placed his piece and went to the Outer Valley to report. Outer Valley. All the Go masters were waiting. He's coming. He's coming. The Go masters quickly stood up and waited for that household servant. Go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. The household servant placed his piece. As soon as the white piece was placed, everyone involuntarily looked over. However, at this moment, the Go masters did not dare to immerse themselves in the game. They only used their brushes to record it down. Only the white-clothed Meng Rongrong was staring at this move. Eldest miss? We don't even dare to look. What do you think of this move? Chongqing smiled bitterly. In the end, Yifeng staked everything on a single throw and went all out. Yan Chuan is going to lose. Meng Rongrong sighed. Is that so? Joy appeared on everyone's faces. This torturous game of Go was finally going to end. Yan Chuan is already forced into a dead end. He has nowhere to go and nowhere to run. He will definitely lose. Meng Rongrong said with absolute certainty. The embroidered uniform army quickly recorded the moves and rode out of the valley. Yen capital drill ground, a tent was set up. Yan Chuan sat at a table outside the tent. Lu Jin handed him a cup of tea. Yan Chuan sipped the tea as he looked at the Go board on the table. Lord, you have already played Go with Grand Tutor Yifeng for 6 to 7 days. This game has already spread throughout Yen capital. It has already become a legend. Lu Jin said with a smile. Chapter 176. A good story? It's a waste of talent for this person to be left in the mortal world. His ability to plan has already reached perfection. Yan Chuan praised. Report. Old Grand Tutor, place your piece. Go 37. The embroidered uniformed soldier shouted. Go 37? Lu Jin immediately placed her piece. Go 37? Stake it all on one throw? Haha, I didn't expect. Yan Chuan suddenly laughed. Lord. Lu Jin didn't understand. He's playing blind chess. Yan Chuan affirmed. Blind chess? That's impossible. Lu Jin said in surprise. If he were looking at the chessboard, he wouldn't have made this move. I've set up many times, one game after another. This new game is a combination of 10 games. It's extremely secretive. If he's playing blind chess, he won't be able to see it. So I'll make this move. I'll enter the 9-5, ascend the throne, soar to the 9 heavens and sweep the world. Yin Chuan said excitedly. Bah. Yin Chuan let out a long sigh of relief as the chess piece was smashed into pieces. Lord, you've placed a dead end. Once this piece is placed, we'll lose 20 black pieces. Lu Jin didn't understand. Lose 20? Remove those 20. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Lu Jin quickly removed the black pieces. As soon as the 20 pieces were removed, the entire chessboard suddenly changed. Although Old Slave isn't proficient in chess, he could see that the entire chessboard changed when the 20 pieces were removed. Everything changed. Lu Jin said in surprise. This time you'll go in person. After placing your piece, be polite. Just say that I'll be there in a few days to request an audience. Yin Chuan said. Yes, Old Slave understands. Lu Jin said respectfully. Lu Jin was filled with excitement. Under the guidance of the embroidered uniform army, she quickly walked out of the drill ground. Yin Chuan carefully looked at the chessboard again. Yifeng? If a chess game could reach such a level with the vision of Immortal, how powerful would you be if your vision was expanded to cover the entire world? We're looking forward to it. Yin Chuan sighed to himself. Wah. Suddenly, a baby's cry resounded throughout the entire drill ground. Demonic beast, there's a demonic beast. A member of the embroidered uniform army shouted. Protect the Lord. Hua Guang shouted from the other side. Ka. The 200 embroidered uniform army soldiers quickly drew their bows and aimed at the sky. In the sky, a huge bat flapped its wings and flew over. With a flap of its wings, a strong gust of wind blew. Bats? It was Lu Gang's third senior brother's bat god. A few days ago, it had been injured by the shooting sun arrows and had fled. Today it had returned. Is it that bat? Shoot them down. Hua Guang shouted. Yes. The 200 members of the embroidered uniform army shouted. Bang. 200 arrows rained down from the sky. They were heading straight for the bat. You're courting death. A sudden roar came from the void. Bang. Before the 200 arrows could reach the bat, they were blocked by a wall of air and fell back quickly. Someone's here? Hua Guang's expression changed. At this moment, Yin Chuan also saw the newcomer. A man in a green robe was standing on the back of the bat demon. The man in the green robe looked down with a cold expression. Where's my junior brother? The man in the green robe asked Yin Chuan. Ka. The bat cried anxiously. What? It's him? He's the one who killed my junior brother? The man in the green robe asked with a dark expression. The bat nodded immediately. Bastard, he was defeated by Immortal in the strength state. The man in the green robe said with a dark expression. You must be King Yi Mai's disciple. Yin Chuan suddenly said. Chapter 177. Tell me, how did you frame my junior brother? Where is he? The man in green robe shouted. Them? They are still alive. Go back and tell Emperor Zheng that I will release them as soon as I return the 42 cities that King Mai promised me. Yin Chuan laughed. Kid, do you want to die? There is a limit to my patience. Let my junior brother out or none of you will live. The man in green robe said coldly. None of you will live? You two sure are alike. Yin Chuan let out a weird smile. What? The man in green robe asked. You will only listen to me if you are beaten. Yin Chuan said lightly. What did you say? The man in green robe glared at Qin Fan. I command the universe. Yin Chuan forced out a drop of blood essence from his finger and drew something in the air. In the blink of an eye, he drew a strange symbol in the air. Roar. The golden dragon in Yin Chuan's body roared. It faced the symbol that was drawn with blood. Bang. The symbol dissipated. At the same time, in the 4 directions of Yanjin, the 4 mountain-like dragon heads that were sculpted by the Dugu Sword Emperor suddenly trembled. A drop of blood flowed out from the forehead of the dragon heads. Roar. Roar. The 4 dragon heads suddenly let out a roar. The roar was so loud that the surrounding birds took to the sky in fear. The beasts on the ground ran away from the dragon head mountains. Boom. A stream of golden light rushed out from the mouths of the 4 dragon heads. The golden light rushed towards Yanjin. As it approached Yanjin, the golden light became dimmer and dimmer. Eventually, it turned into a gust of wind in the shape of a dragon. It was as if 4 transparent dragons were crashing into the 4 corners of Yanjin. Yanjin Crown Prince Palace. The Dugu Sword Emperor was meditating with his eyes closed. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and rushed out of the palace. 4 transparent dragons rushed into Yanjin. As he howled, a storm swept across the entire Yanjin. Hua 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 hua. The strong wind suddenly blew the streets into a mess. Debris soared into the sky, smoke and dust rose everywhere. A large number of people were blown away by the strong wind. What a strong wind! Where is this wind coming from? Why is there wind on such a sunny day? The surroundings were in a mess. Some of the small lakes even had huge waves. Oh my God! All the small boats in the lake were blown over. The wind swept across the entire Yanjin. He went straight to the Yanjing drill ground. What's going on? The azure-robed man's expression changed. It was like a gust of wind coming from all directions rushing towards him. Rumble. On the drill ground, the 4 small dragon heads trembled. As they trembled, the area around the 4 dragon heads suddenly turned green. It became greener and greener. The fierce wind was blowing the feng shui poison in the city, and the billowing toxic gas was gathering, becoming thicker and thicker. The green-robed man who was flying above the 4 dragon matrix was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. In the blink of an eye, he was enveloped by the rolling green gas along with the bat. Despicable bastard! It's the toxic gas! The green-robed man shouted in horror. Boom! A man and a bat fell from the sky. They fell to the ground. Boom! A large number of stone slabs were smashed. The wind came and went quickly. It disappeared in the blink of an eye, as if everything that had happened was just a dream. That's strange. Where's the wind? Was I dreaming just now? The wind is gone? The people in the city looked at the sky in confusion. Only the large cloud of toxic gas above the drill ground proved that everything that had happened was not a dream. Without the wind, the toxic gas did not spread. Instead, it suddenly shot up into the sky and shot towards a certain place in Yanjin. The Dugu Sword Emperor stood in the air. He looked down at the green-robed man and the bat demon, who were foaming at the mouth and were covered in green. The Dugu Sword Emperor finally understood why Yen Chuan had delayed for a few days. It was to trick the green-robed man. Yen Chuan had already guessed that he was coming. In order not to owe him a favor, he purposely delayed the feng shui array for a few days. Another human qi practitioner? Yen Chuan tricked another qi practitioner? The Dugu Sword Emperor looked at Yen Chuan speechlessly. Is he still human? Of course, the Dugu Sword Emperor only glanced at him before he chased after the toxic gas. The direction of the toxic gas was where the poisoner was. Killing the poisoner was more important. Chapter 178. At the Yanjin drill ground. Cracks appeared on the 4 small dragon heads as they crumbled under the impact of the feng shui array. But that was not important. What was important was the man and the demon in the center of the drill ground. The man in green was covered in green as the poison invaded his body. He fell to the ground as if he was having an epileptic seizure. Even so, the man in green stared at Yen Chuan with eyes full of sadness and innocence. He was a Qi Jing expert. How could he be defeated by Immortal? I didn't have the time to make a move. I didn't have the time. The bat demon was only in the Qi Jing state. It could not even open its eyes. When the embroidered uniform army saw this magnificent scene again, they all looked at Yen Chuan with admiration. Yen Chuan stepped forward slowly. Despicable bastard, how dare you poison me? My master will not let you go. He will not let you go. None of you will live. All of you will die. The man in green screamed as he twitched. Slap. Yen Chuan stepped on the man in green's face. Whoa whoa. The man in green's face turned black again. He almost fainted. The man in green was already prepared to be scolded and humiliated by Yen Chuan. However, who would have thought that Yen Chuan would kick him instead? Kick. When this foot landed on his face, it rubbed back and forth as if he had stepped on dog poop and wanted to wipe his face clean. He had never been humiliated like this in all his years of cultivation. This blow was so deep that it directly destroyed the green-robed man's dignity. How many years had he been through this? The man in green cried. Huo Guang and the others looked at him strangely. Crying? He was a Qi Jing expert, a true master of the gate of heaven. He cried because of the Lord of the Strength State? For a moment, the remaining lofty image of the immortal sect experts in Huo Guang's heart completely collapsed. Master? Master my ass. Master my ass. The genie army looked at the man in green with disdain. Yen Chuan stepped on the man in green and said, This kick is to teach you a lesson. Don't curse anyone you see. You should do it, not talk. The more arrogant you are, the more ignorant you are. Bring him up. Yin Chuan shouted towards the distance. Yes. Soon, 3 prison wagons were brought to the drill ground. The wagons were covered with black cloth so no one could see inside. Lu Gang, someone is here to save you. Yin Chuan shouted at one of the wagons. Before Lu Gang could speak, a surprised voice came from one of the wagons. Is that eldest senior brother? Senior brother, save me. It was the voice of the 3rd senior brother. Senior, save me. The crown prince's voice. Say something. Yin Chuan said to the man in green on the ground. But how could he speak when he was stepping on the green-robed man's face? Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Yin Chuan gently released his right foot. Third junior brother? The man in green said sadly. Haha, it really is senior brother. Senior brother, save me. I was tricked by Yin Chuan. He is a liar. Capture Yin Chuan and save me. Senior brother. The 3rd senior brother said happily. The man in green was numb. In the middle of the prison wagon, Lu Gang's face darkened. He could guess what was going on when he heard senior brother's voice. Yin Chuan. Lu Gang's heart skipped a beat. Senior brother, are you okay? Lu Gang asked with a pale face. Okay. The senior brother in green twitched and felt sad. Take him away. Yin Chuan waved his hand. Yes. The 3 Gene army soldiers pulled the prison wagon away. Senior brother, save me. Save me. The 3rd senior brother continued to shout. Chapter 179. Save my ass. Your 1st senior brother can't even save himself. Why would he save you? Huo Guang cursed at the prisoner carriage. Impossible. 1st senior brother is at the 6th level of the Qi realm, a peerless expert. You're lying. 3rd senior brother screamed. Qi realm 6th level? Peerless expert? Every praise from his junior brother made him feel even more miserable. The 1st senior brother was filled with hatred. The prisoner carriage was taken away, leaving only the 1st senior brother in despair. Did you see them? They're still alive. Once we get back, tell Emperor Zheng to hand over the 42 cities in the northern frontier as soon as possible. This is what King Mai personally agreed to. The moment the 42 cities in the northern frontier are handed over will be the day I release them. You're going to let me go? The 1st senior brother was shocked. Yin Chuan smiled. Why would I kill you? The 1st senior brother was petrified. Why would he kill him? The 1st senior brother didn't understand. Wasn't the reason why he was in such a pitiful state? But remember, don't even think about it. I have ways to kill you. Yin Chuan said coldly. The green-robed eldest senior brother's face, which had turned black, suddenly turned red. The bat demon has a special body. It should be able to recover from this poison quickly. As for you, this poison won't kill you. Go back and find King Mai. He'll help you. Yin Chuan said. Puchi. Sure enough, the bat demon could move again. With great difficulty, the bat demon stood up. But at this moment, the bat demon looked at Yin Chuan in horror. It stood up and jumped to the side to avoid Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan kicked the 1st senior brother onto the bat demon's back. Take him to Emperor Zheng. Yin Chuan said. Wah. The bat demon retreated in fear. It flapped its wings and flew up but fell back down. It flew in a sorry state. However, out of fear of Yin Chuan, it continued to flap its wings. Gradually, he became more and more immune to the poison and was finally able to fly. The bat soared into the sky and flew towards the south. However, its flight was still very wretched. It flew high and low at times. It was obvious that the poison had not been completely cleansed. Standing in the square, Yin Chuan watched the bat demon leave. Why did the Lord let him go? Huo Guang asked in confusion. Yin Chuan said in a low voice, once the young ones are captured, the old ones will come. There's no end to this. Today it's him. Next time it might be King Mai. But if that's the case, we'll have to worry all the time. Huo Guang frowned. You're worried that they'll seek revenge? Do I need to worry about these pieces of trash? Yin Chuan said confidently. King Mai knows that he's here, but he's just trying to go back on his word. If I let him go, King Mai won't be able to go back on his word. If you let the Crown Prince of Zheng go, what about the Crown Prince of Wei? Huo Guang asked. King Mai of Zheng is an immortal state warrior. He seems to be related to my father and the Dai sect. Therefore we have to show him some respect. As for the ancestral patriarchs of the other 3 nations, they are only in the Qi state. Even if they come to me, I have thousands of ways to kill them. Yin Chuan said with disdain. Yes. Huo Guang sighed and nodded. Suddenly, A ray of green light shot into the sky. Solitary Sword King, you're still haunting us. What do you want? An angry roar resounded through Beijing. Irreconcilable hatred, what do you say? Today you will die without a doubt. Chapter 180. Xing. A vast sword light soared into the sky, slashing at the green light in the sky. Bastard! How did you find me? You can't possibly find me. Kill. In the sky above Yanjing, the Immortals were fighting. Everyone was shocked and excited at the same time. At the drill ground, Yan Chuan led the embroidered uniform army to observe the battle in the sky. Star Luo Mountain Villa, Outer Valley, the group of Go Masters was waiting. Meng Rongrong had already guessed the result, so she did not care. She only waited for Yan Chuan to admit defeat. Giddy up. 3 groups of horses charged into the valley. Oh. Lu Jin pulled on the reins and stopped. A new Go Stone. A new Go Stone. The group of Go Masters said excitedly. Lu Jin got off her horse and walked over. Everyone made way for Lu Jin. Meng Rongrong waited patiently. After all, the game was already at the end. Is she here to admit defeat? Meng Rongrong looked at Lu Jin in surprise. At this moment, Lu Jin actually picked up a black Go Stone and placed it on the Go board. Clack. The moment the black Go Stone was placed, everyone in the surroundings was confused. What is she doing? Is she seeking her own death? That's right. This is a self-filling hole. Has he admitted defeat? The group of Go Masters asked in confusion. Something's not right. A Go Master at the side was reviewing the game. According to Lu Jin's moves, the situation on the Go board changed completely after she took out 20 black Go Stones. That Go Master exclaimed. The group of Go Masters looked over at the Go board that was being reviewed. How can this be? This. Mastery lost? A Go Master said in disbelief. Suddenly, all the Go Masters' expressions froze. They felt like a bone was stuck in their throats. What? Yifeng lost? That's impossible. Meng Rongrong, who was full of confidence, said in disbelief. He stepped forward to take a look. Here. How could it be here? How could it fall here? Meng Rongrong looked at the chessboard in disbelief. Go and report this to the Grand Preceptor. Lu Jin said to the household servant, who was in a daze. Yes. The household servant shouted in a daze. Then he quickly ran into the valley. In the valley, Yifeng closed his eyes and thought about the chessboard. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard from afar. Yifeng opened his eyes with a flash of anticipation. How is it? Has he made his move? Yifeng asked impatiently. Yes, it's the 9-5. The household servant shouted. Yifeng's grandson looked at the chessboard and placed a black piece. Aha, is he courting death? No, that's not right. Yifeng suddenly exclaimed. Grandpa, he lost 20 pieces. Yifeng's grandson said. No, it's the 9-5? It's the 9-5? The position of the 9 and 5, the honor of the 9 and 5, the sovereign overlooking the world, what a sovereign overlooking the world. Grandpa. I actually lost. Ah. Yifeng laughed freely. What? Grandpa, you lost? That's impossible. Also, even if something is wrong, you can definitely turn the tide. Yifeng's grandson exclaimed. The position of the 9-5, the sovereign of the world, is unparalleled. I did not lose this game unjustly. Ah. Yifeng laughed loudly. However, halfway through his laughter, his body suddenly swayed and he fainted. Grandpa, what's wrong? Imperial physician, quick. The middle-aged man exclaimed. A man in embroidered robes quickly stepped forward and placed his hand on Yifeng's pulse. After a while, he made a quick diagnosis. How is it? How is my grandpa? The middle-aged man asked anxiously. It's nothing serious. The Grand Preceptor has expended too much energy over the past few days and is just exhausted. He will be fine after a good sleep and a few days of rest. The imperial physician immediately said. That's good. Young master, what should we say to the outside world? A household servant asked with an unsightly expression. After all, Yifeng had never lost before. If word of this got out, would... The middle-aged man shook his head and said, just tell them the truth. Grandpa has been indomitable all his life and does not care about reputation. Grandpa once said, do not fear defeat, do not admit defeat if you fear defeat. Go and report this. Yes. Chapter 181. Starnet Villa in the Outer Valley. What? Master Yi admitted defeat? Can't Master Yi turn the tide? Master Yi has never been defeated before. How could he be defeated? The group of Go masters continued shouting in disbelief. Yifeng was a legend in the hearts of all the chess masters. Although Yifeng had always refused to admit it, all the chess masters knew that the Yin state had a chess saint, the chess saint Yifeng. However, the chess saint had actually lost today. No, it shouldn't be like this. The Go masters reacted intensely. On the other side, Meng Rongrong kept staring at the chessboard. Burying my son? Yen Chuan actually buried such a deep pit? Meng Rongrong said in surprise. Eldest miss, what pit? Changqing was puzzled. The position of 9 and 5. This position should have started to ambush Yen Chuan when he placed his 20th piece. It was left until the very end. It was the finishing touch. This piece was like a stroke of God. It was like the arrival of a sovereign. It swept the entire chessboard. Meng Rongrong exclaimed. A chess piece can sweep the entire chessboard? Changqing gaped in shock. Meng Rongrong stared at the chess piece speechlessly. After watching for a while, Meng Rongrong suddenly looked at Lu Jin. Lu Jin sat by the side and sipped his tea peacefully. It was as if he had expected this and his face was filled with confidence. Meng Rongrong slowly walked over. Seeing this, Lu Jin immediately stood up. Greetings, Senior Meng. Lu Jin smiled. Obviously, Yen Chuan had told Lu Jin to be as polite to Meng Rongrong as possible. I heard from Changqing that Yen Chuan hasn't joined the Day sect yet, right? Meng Rongrong asked with a smile. Yes, but soon. Lu Jin smiled. Soon? Then how does Yen Chuan feel about my Julu Academy? Meng Rongrong asked. Senior, what do you mean? Lu Jin was puzzled. I want to lure Yen Chuan into my Julu Academy. I wonder if you can pass a message for me? Meng Rongrong asked. Julu Academy? How does it compare to the Day sect? Lu Jin asked curiously. Changqing suddenly laughed. Haha, how can the Day sect compare to my Julu Academy? Even 100 Day sect can't compare to our Julu Academy. Let me tell you, my Julu Academy is one of the 4 great academies in the world. Even the people from the Holy Lands have to be polite to my Julu Academy. Lu Jin ignored Changqing and looked at Meng Rongrong. Senior, are you interested in my Yaozhu because of the game just now? That's right, that game was earth-shattering. It's a pity for such a talent to stay in the Day sect. He should go to the Julu Academy. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Lu Jin's expression changed. Senior, are you interested in the Villa Master of Xinglua Mountain Villa? Yifeng? That's right, I want to lure him into the Julu Academy. Meng Rongrong didn't hide anything. Lu Jin immediately shook her head. I will tell the Lord. As for the Lord's decision, I can't make it. It's fine, you just have to tell him. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Definitely. Lu Jin said in a deep voice. Meng Rongrong nodded and walked towards the household servant. Lu Jin narrowed her eyes and stared at this group of people. Man. Lu Jin said to an embroidered uniformed soldier. Eunuch Lu? The soldier was puzzled. You two quickly go back and report to the Lord. Tell him that Meng Rongrong wants to steal from the Lord and recruit Grand Preceptor Yifeng. Lu Jin said. Okay, yes. The soldier immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. Chapter 182. In the sky above Yanjing. Blood escape spear explode. Boom. A large amount of blood mist erupted in the sky. Within the blood mist, a blood-red light shot towards the north of the city. You escaped last time and now you want to escape again? Where do you think you're going? The Dugu Sword Emperor roared. Whoosh. Dugu Jianwang became one with his sword and instantly transformed into a sword light that shot towards the north. Yen Chuan looked at the sky and immediately mounted his horse. Let's go. The embroidered uniform army quickly mounted their horses and followed Yen Chuan out of the drill ground. Rushing out of the drill ground, they saw Yen Wudi galloping over on his horse. Uncle Wang? Yen Wudi also saw the crowd. Yes, let's go and take a look. Yen Chuan nodded. Hiya. 2 days later. Lu Jin sat in a pavilion in the valley outside the Star Luo Mountain Villa. She held a cup of tea in her hand, and her eyes revealed traces of anxiety. Hiya. A group of Fergana horses rushed into the valley. It was Yen Chuan's embroidered uniform army. The embroidered uniform army rushed towards Lu Jin, and Lu Jin quickly put down the teacup in her hand. How is it? Lu Jin asked anxiously. The Lord brought some people to the north to chase after the Dugu Sword Emperor and the Poisoner. Although we sent people to chase after them, the Lord has already gone far away. We haven't caught up yet. The embroidered uniform army said anxiously. Haven't caught up? Then we won't be able to inform the Lord. Lu Jin said with an ugly expression. Yes, we won't be able to catch up in a short period of time. The embroidered uniform army said with a dark expression. No matter what, send more people to chase after the Lord. You must pass on my words. The Lord spent so much effort playing chess with the Grand Preceptor. We can't let outsiders take advantage of him. We can't let outsiders poach him. Lu Jin said with a solemn expression. Yes, I'll go and inform the brothers who are guarding Yanjing to hurry up and chase after the Lord. The soldier also shouted. Okay, let's go. Lu Jin cried. Giddy up. The soldier urged his horse out of the valley. On the other side, a middle-aged man in a luxurious robe was receiving Meng Rongrong and her group. Everyone, grandfather is waiting for you in the valley. Please come in. The middle-aged man said respectfully. Meng Rongrong nodded. The group was about to be invited into the middle of the valley. Not good. Lu Jin's expression changed. Quick. Lu Jin quickly walked forward with the two embroidered uniform soldiers beside her. Wait. Lu Jin shouted. Meng Rongrong looked at him curiously. The middle-aged man also looked over curiously. May I ask if we are going to meet the Grand Tutor? Lu Jin immediately asked. That's right. Grandfather is inviting this senior into the valley. The middle-aged man nodded. Enter the valley? Did he inform us to enter the valley? Lu Jin asked anxiously. Grandfather said that when the chess player comes, he will inform us immediately, but... The middle-aged man was in a difficult position. The chess player was Yan Xuan, and Lu Jin obviously wasn't. Therefore she wasn't invited by Yi Feng. Well, the Lord wants me to bring a message to the Grand Tutor. Can I enter the valley? Lu Jin asked anxiously. But... The middle-aged man hesitated. It's very important. It's very important. Lu Jin said anxiously. The middle-aged man looked at Lu Jin and thought for a while. Finally he nodded and said, Okay. Come with me. Okay, thank you. Lu Jin immediately exhaled. Meng Rongrong was wearing a bamboo hat, but her eyes flashed with confusion. Lu Jin left one embroidered uniform soldier outside the valley and entered the valley with the other embroidered uniform soldier. Chapter 183. Inside the valley. There was a large hall with the words Soaring Hall written on a plaque. The four walls of the Soaring Hall were filled with bookshelves. Tens of thousands of books were placed on them. It was densely packed. There were some daily necessities around the hall. There were teacups, chopsticks, wine glasses, stools and chairs. They were all in sets of two. It was as if it was the living quarters of two people. Yi Feng, an old man in a white robe, was sitting on a comfortable chair. He was being served by a few servants. The old man was holding a small booklet in his hand. That's all? Yi Feng frowned and asked. Yes. This is all the information about the emperor equal to the emperor. There are no omissions from the moment he entered Yanjing. Everything about him in the feng shui formation is also real, a household servant said respectfully. The emperor equal to the emperor? Yan Xuan? He's a mystery. I can't see through him with this little information, Yi Feng thought. While he was deep in thought, Yi Feng's fingers tapped on the table as he analyzed the information about Yan Xuan. Meng Rongrong, Lu Jin, and the others were led by Yi Feng's grandson to the Soaring Hall. Soaring Hall? Flying? Only high-level cultivators can fly. It seems like the Grand Tutor is also thinking about flying. Meng Rongrong smiled as she looked at the plaque. The middle-aged man looked at the plaque and shook his head. Senior, you've misunderstood. The Soaring Hall is actually named to commemorate my grandmother. My grandmother's name is Chen Feitian. After she passed away, my grandfather couldn't forget her and changed the name of the hall to the Soaring Hall. I see. It seems that I've misunderstood. Meng Rongrong smiled bitterly. Lu Jin took a deep look at the plaque and said nothing. This way, please. The middle-aged man led the way. Everyone nodded. At this moment, someone also entered the hall to inform Yi Feng. Yi Feng put down the book in his hand and walked over. Yi Feng smiled and walked to the door. Honored guest, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. At this moment, Yi Feng did not act like he was old, because Yi Feng understood that it was impossible to judge the age of a cultivator. Perhaps these people were even older than him. Greetings, Grand Preceptor. Meng Rongrong smiled. Lu Jin greets the Grand Preceptor on behalf of the Emperor. Lu Jin immediately said. Yi Feng glanced at Lu Jin in surprise. From Yan Chuan's information he naturally knew about Lu Jin. Everyone please come in. Yi Feng led everyone into the hall. Everyone nodded and stepped in. The household servant also quickly brought in a large number of chairs. He respectfully placed the chairs in the hall. The chairs were divided into 2 rows. The left row had 6 chairs and the right row had 2 chairs for 8 people. Everyone please take a seat, Yi Feng said with a smile. Meng Rongrong nodded and sat at the head of the left row. Chongqing and the others sat below her. Lu Jin sat at the second seat from the right row. The embroidered uniform soldier stood behind Lu Jin and did not take a seat. Everyone looked over curiously. The left row was full, and the right row was for Lu Jin and the embroidered uniform soldier. Why did Lu Jin sit at the second seat? And why was the embroidered uniform soldier not seated? Eunuch Lu, what are you doing? Yi Feng asked curiously. I dare not hide it from the Grand Preceptor. This time I came on behalf of the Lord. Therefore the first seat is empty for the Lord. Lu Jin said respectfully. Empty for Yan Chuan? Meng Rongrong raised her brows as if she felt that something was wrong. But she did not know what it was. Yi Feng looked at Lu Jin meaningfully. He seemed to be deep in thought. Chapter 184. I won't hide it from the Grand Preceptor. This time I have come on behalf of the Lord. Therefore the first position is left empty for the Lord. Lu Jin said respectfully. Left empty for Yan Chuan? Meng Rongrong raised an eyebrow as if sensing something amiss. But she didn't know what it was. Yi Feng looked meaningfully at Lu Jin. He seemed to be deep in thought. All right. Yi Feng smiled. Lu Jin nodded. Yi Feng's grandson, who had led the way, also stood respectfully behind Yi Feng. I heard from my grandson that you are seniors from the Julu Academy? Yi Feng looked at Meng Rongrong and the others. That's right. This is the young miss of our Julu Academy. She is the daughter of the principal. Chongqing immediately introduced. Oh, Yi Feng has been neglectful. Yi Feng immediately said with a solemn expression. It's fine. I just happened to be there. When I saw the Grand Preceptor's game I was filled with many emotions. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Haha, that game was indeed the most exciting game I've ever played in my life. Unfortunately I still lost in the end. Yi Feng shook his head and laughed. Lost? That's pardonable. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Oh. Yi Feng said with a smile. At the beginning of this game you started 10 games at the same time, fighting 10 opponents alone. You couldn't concentrate on the 10th game, causing your initial setup to be flawed. This is the first reason. Yan Chuan had seen your game record but you knew nothing about Yan Chuan. You weren't as careful as Yan Chuan when you placed your pieces. This is the second reason. With your back to the chessboard you fought the enemy with a blind chess piece. This is the third reason. Old age, unable to fight for long periods of time, intermittent, unable to use all of his strength. This is the fourth reason. Even with these 4 losses, you can still play this game so brilliantly. Even if you lose it's still understandable. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. That's right, Grand Preceptor. We all agree that your Go skills are definitely higher than Yan Chuan's. Chongqing called out at the right time. Everyone from Julu Academy agreed with Meng Rongrong. That's right, Grandpa. You're the best at chess since ancient times, but because of these factors you made a mistake. If you play again you'll definitely win against Emperor Equal. The middle-aged man stood by Yi Feng's side and naturally chimed in. Yi Feng waved his hand to stop his grandson from talking. On the other side, the embroidered uniform soldier standing behind Lu Jin was enraged. He glared angrily at the people opposite him. A win is a win and a loss is a loss. How can there be so many excuses on the battlefield? Lu Jin interjected. Chongqing raised an eyebrow. You. Yi Feng's grandson Yan Jing glared at him. Yi Feng waved his hand to stop his grandson's impulse. I'd like to hear the details, Yi Feng said with a smile. The Lord once told me that when a chessboard is spread out, it is a battlefield. The horizontal part is the sky and the vertical part is the earth. When a piece is placed, it is the beginning of the world. No amount of regret or reason can change the course of history. A win is a win. A loss is a loss. It's like 2 people fighting each other. Just because one of them didn't eat breakfast, does that mean he can come back to life? Isn't that laughable? Lu Jin shook her head. Meng Rongrong frowned. Meng Rongrong could see that Lu Jin was really going against her. Yi Feng's grandson also glared at him, regretting that he had brought him in. Haha, well said. Yi Feng laughed. Yi Feng didn't blame Lu Jin. Instead, he was more interested in Yan Chuan. Lu Jin stood up and bowed slightly. Lu Jin is not disrespecting the Grand Preceptor. On the contrary, because the Lord respects the Grand Preceptor, Lu Jin respects him even more. Lu Jin just wants to tell the truth. The Grand Preceptor hasn't been playing chess with all his strength, and the Lord hasn't been playing chess with all his strength these days either. Chapter 185. Oh. Yifeng asked curiously. The Lord said that the Grand Preceptor is a wise man. I don't need to say anything. I'm sure he'll be able to analyze the information reported by the servants. Lu Jin said with a smile. With that, Lu Jin sat down. Yifeng looked at Lu Jin and nodded. That's right. Although I don't know what the Emperor is busy with these days, from the information he's running around everywhere. He must be dealing with something more important. Yifeng is impressed that you can beat me under such circumstances. Thank you for your praise, Grand Preceptor. Lu Jin said politely. On the other side, Meng Rongrong frowned. Obviously, after Chongqing lost the power of the Yen state, he no longer knew what was happening in the Yen state every day. However, Meng Rongrong didn't care about that. After all, Meng Rongrong's following conditions were irresistible. Yan Chuan's chess skills are strong, but the Grand Preceptor's chess skills are also extraordinary. The Grand Preceptor is 92 years old this year, right? Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Yifeng nodded. That's right. His time is coming, so he spends his days playing chess to amuse himself. He's spending his last days in peace. His time is coming? Haha, I wonder if the Grand Preceptor has any last wishes? Let me see if I can help you. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Yifeng's grandson's eyes lit up behind her. At that moment, anyone could hear Meng Rongrong's goodwill. She was extending an olive branch to Yifeng. As long as Yifeng opened his mouth, Meng Rongrong might be able to lure Yifeng into the world of cultivation. Grandpa. Yifeng's grandson whispered anxiously. Anyone could see his agitation, and his gaze seemed to be urging Yifeng to quickly agree. However, it had been several decades. How much had Yifeng experienced? Naturally, he wouldn't show his emotions on his face like his grandson. Last wishes? Senior, what kind of last wish can you fulfill for me? Yifeng asked with a smile. Yifeng didn't ask for the chance to live forever. No matter what, there was a skill involved. No matter when, he couldn't be passive. Do you know about the situation at Julu Academy? Meng Rongrong smiled. The previous generation's emperor, equal to one-word emperor, once told me about the world of cultivators. He especially mentioned the Julu Academy, the place where literature flourished, countless great scholars, the place where the world's wisdom springs. A word or action can affect thousands of sects in the world. Yifeng nodded. Chongqing and the others smiled comfortably. I wonder if the Grand Preceptor is willing to enter my Julu Academy? What about playing chess with the great Confucians of the world? Meng Rongrong laughed. Grandpa. The middle-aged man said excitedly. No matter how calm Yifeng was at this moment, his eyes flashed. Meng Rongrong had already spoken. Led you into the gate of immortality. This was Yifeng's wish for several decades. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Senior, don't you know my root bone? Yifeng smiled bitterly. Of course I know. So what if your root bone is poor? The cultivation world has plenty of resources. Your only disadvantage is that you're too old. Many of your body's functions can't be recovered. You can't pass the first heaven's lightning tribulation. However, you're already at level 10 of the power realm. I have a essence boosting pill that can help you enter the essence state. Once you enter the essence state, I'll personally lead you into the Julu Academy. In the Julu Academy, you'll definitely be able to unleash your wisdom. Meng Rongrong smiled. Essence boosting pill? Yifeng's expression changed for the first time. Chongqing smiled and said, that's right, it's the essence boosting pill. In the cultivation world, there are countless pills, but there are only a few pills that can resist the lightning tribulation. They're extremely precious. Most of the time, they can't be bought with spirit stones. Young lady got this pill by chance from the Dazhao sacred ground. As long as you swallow it, you'll enter the essence state and your lifespan will double. Moreover, young lady will personally lead you into the Julu Academy. You'll definitely be valued in the Julu Academy. You can't miss this opportunity. Chapter 186. Grandpa. The middle-aged man's breathing quickened. This was truly the beginning of the end of bitterness. Grandpa's lifelong wish was finally about to be fulfilled. Yifeng looked at Meng Rongrong. Although he was excited, he analyzed the authenticity of Meng Rongrong's words. This is the essence-boosting pill. You should have heard of it before. Meng Rongrong confidently took out a pill bottle and handed it over. The middle-aged man carefully took it and handed it to Yifeng. Yifeng looked at the bottle and his eyes lit up. Not bad, not bad. Yin Tao introduced it before. This is it. Even the steady Yifeng was no longer calm at this moment. Lu Jin's expression froze. She suddenly remembered. Back then, the saintess of the Dazhao Holy Land Mo Yushi had asked Qing Long to give a pill to the Lord. At that time when they first met, the half-baked feng shui master Ding Wugu had killed 2 silver-armored soldiers. The Lord had mentioned that the pill was precious. It seemed to be called the essence-boosting pill. Essence-boosting pill? How about it, Grand Preceptor? Julu Academy is the holy land of the wise. If you go, you will definitely be able to display your talents. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Thank you for your kindness, senior. Yifeng said emotionally. As long as Grand Preceptor agrees, this essence-boosting pill is yours. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Yifeng was about to speak. Wait. Lu Jin suddenly shouted. Lu Jin, what are you doing? Yifeng's grandson suddenly shouted. Yifeng waved his hand to stop his grandson from interrupting. What? Is there something else, Eunuch Lu? Yifeng asked doubtfully. Lu Jin took a deep breath and stood up. She bowed slightly and said, I know it is wrong to interrupt Grand Preceptor, but please listen to me. Yifeng looked curiously at Lu Jin. Meng Rongrong also looked over with a frown. The Lord told me to personally place the last piece. At the same time, he told me to tell Grand Preceptor that the Lord will come soon and play another game with you. Lu Jin said solemnly. Is that so? I welcome it. Yifeng said with a smile. The Lord said that he is looking forward to playing chess with the Grand Preceptor. At the same time, he has something more important to discuss with the Grand Preceptor. Something more important? Yifeng's words. Lu Jin took a deep breath and said, His Highness said that the Grand Preceptor is old and wise. He can see through many things. I hope that the Grand Preceptor will accept Senior Meng's invitation after His Highness arrives. Lu Jin thought about it but did not mention that she had a spirit-boosting pill. She showed a bitter expression, unsure of how to persuade Yifeng. Why? Chongqing immediately called out. What kind of joke is this? Yifeng's grandson said angrily. Lu Jin? What do you mean? Meng Rongrong said with a frown. Senior Meng, please forgive me. Lu Jin said indifferently. Do you think we can wait just because you said so? Yifeng's grandson rebuked. How could they miss such a good opportunity? Yifeng stared at Lu Jin. He could see the urgency on Lu Jin's face. His eyes flashed as if he was quickly analyzing everything. Senior. Yifeng suddenly looked at Meng Rongrong. Meng Rongrong was puzzled. Yifeng is old. I no longer have any extravagant hopes in my old age and only play chess to pass my life. Thank you for your kindness. I want to enter the world of cultivation. I really want to. And I am grateful for the preferential treatment you have given me, Yifeng said solemnly. Lu Jin opened her mouth anxiously. Evergreen and the others smiled faintly. It was as if victory was in their hands. However, I, Yifeng, have my own ideas. I am the king of chess and I have never seen anyone like you before. For the sake of the purity of this last game, I want to wait until after the game to answer you. Is that all right? Yifeng said sincerely. Yifeng's grandson opened his mouth in shock. What? Chongqing and the others said in disbelief. Meng Rongrong also frowned. Her eyes were filled with surprise. However, after the surprise, Meng Rongrong had a hint of admiration in her eyes. For him to not be blinded by greed meant that this person was even more outstanding than she had imagined. Very well. The Julu Academy's doors will always be open to you. Meng Rongrong said confidently and satisfactorily. Thank you. Yifeng smiled. Thank you, Grand Preceptor. Lu Jin was also pleasantly surprised. After all, Meng Rongrong's offer was tempting even to her, but Yifeng was delaying for a game of chess? That's great, that's great. Your Highness, come back quickly. Chapter 187. After arranging for Meng Rongrong, Lu Jin, and the others to rest, Yifeng and his grandson were the only ones left in the soaring palace. Grandpa, why didn't you agree to such a good opportunity? The middle-aged man asked anxiously. Oh. Yifeng smiled at his grandson. If Grandpa had agreed, you would have immediately entered the Immortal sect. That Julu Academy seems to be a very big Immortal sect. The dean's daughter values Grandpa so much. With Grandpa's talent, you would definitely rise quickly in the Julu Academy. Yifeng shook his head gently. I wanted to talk about it after the game. But you could have agreed to the Julu Academy. It wouldn't have been too late to play Go then. Grandpa, I really shouldn't have brought that Lu Jin here. He didn't even say anything. Why did Grandpa listen to him? The middle-aged man said regretfully. No, he already said what he needed to say. Not only did he say it, but he also said a lot. Yifeng shook his head. The middle-aged man asked curiously. He only needed to show the attitude of a king on a par with the emperor. That's enough. I can guess the rest. Yifeng said with a smile. Yan Chuan's attitude? What attitude? That Yan Chuan is just a kid in his teens. At most he plays Go extremely well. The middle-aged man said in disbelief. No, the Go game is different from other games. Great Go skills require a big heart to bear them. Yifeng shook his head. Although I've never met Yan Chuan, and even collected very little information about him, I can see his strength from this information. Yifeng said thoughtfully. Strength? That senior from Julu Academy would be able to crush him to death with a single finger. I'm not talking about strength but courage. Yifeng said gravely. Courage? He brought 3,000 members of the Brocade E army into Beijing. Now there are only 300 of them around Yanchuan. Where are the other 2,700 members of the Brocade E army? Yifeng looked at Sun Zi with a smile. I don't know. I've sent many people to investigate, but there's still no news. The middle-aged man was slightly stunned. Grandpa, you know? Yifeng smiled and nodded his head. These 2,700 embroidered E army members are currently doing something major. Just wait, there will be news very soon. Something big? What is it? Yifeng shook his head and did not explain. Grandpa, we shouldn't delay the people from Julu Academy. What if they get angry? This is a rare opportunity. Yifeng smiled faintly and shook his head. You might not know, but the new emperor is much more powerful than the old one. Grandpa, what did you say? Yan Chuan is more powerful than Yan Tao? How is that possible? The middle-aged man said in disbelief. It's true. Yifeng nodded. Grandpa, how did you know? From this game of chess I can tell. Yifeng said with certainty. I've already waited for dozens of years. It doesn't matter if I wait for a few days. I'm still looking forward to this Yan Chuan. Yifeng laughed. But Grandpa, you're 92 years old. You can't delay it for much longer. If you anger the people from Julu Academy, Grandpa's wish for many years, isn't it? The middle-aged man said with a complicated expression. Yifeng shook his head and sighed. Yan Chuan is right. When a person is about to die, he can see through many things. But Grandpa. Chapter 188. Say no more. I have my own plans. Wait. All right. The middle-aged man was helpless. Giddy up. Yan Chuan, Yan Wudi, Huaguang, and the 200 embroidered uniform army soldiers were galloping on the rugged mountain road. Over there, Lord is over there. Huaguang pointed into the distance. Let's go. Everyone chased after him. The direction that Huaguang pointed at was filled with sword radiance. Numerous sharp blades pierced in all directions, creating a loud explosion. Sword chi shot out in all directions, flattening half of the surrounding mountains. No. Poisoner's terrified cry could be heard from the center of the sword chi. Poisoner, give me your life. Following the Dugu Sword Emperor's roar, the thousands of sword chi were suddenly sucked back into his body. It was as if 10,000 arrows had pierced through his heart. Boom. A loud explosion was heard and a huge gust of wind blew in all directions. Smoke and dust rose, causing Yan Chuan and the rest to immediately pull on the reins and stop their advance. After the smoke and dust dispersed, Yan Chuan and the rest rode forward again. Bang. A dull sound was heard and the battle stopped. The two people in the air landed on the ground. Poisoner's face was pale as he lay on the ground. There were countless cracks all over his body, and one could see the white bones exposed from every crack. Dugu Sword Emperor, I will take revenge. The weak poisoner said with a ferocious expression. You won't have the chance. Now, I will chop off your head and offer it to her soul in heaven. The Dugu Sword Emperor also had a ferocious expression. Ching. Boom. Poisoner's head was chopped off, and fresh blood gushed out from his neck. Even before his death, Poisoner's eyes were still wide open, filled with unwillingness, and great hatred. After chopping off Poisoner's head, the Dugu Sword Emperor went silent, closed his eyes, and immersed himself in his own world. However, when Yen Chuan and the rest arrived, the Dugu Sword Emperor's closed eyes were already overflowing with tears. For 20 years, the Dugu Sword Emperor had been thinking about revenge every day. However, after killing his last enemy, the Dugu Sword Emperor realized that his heart had become empty. So what if his enemies were all dead? She could no longer come back. Master. Yen Wudi softly. Everyone dismounted. Yen Wudi's voice awakened Dugu Jianwang, and he wiped away his tears. The Dugu Sword Emperor looked at Yen and the rest. Many thanks. Solitary Sword King said sincerely. Because of Yen Chuan, Dugu Jianwang was able to kill his enemy. The Dugu Sword Emperor's voice was extremely solemn. It's nothing. Remember what you promised me. Teach Yen Wudi well. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Don't worry. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded affirmatively. The Dugu Sword Emperor walked to the side and picked up Poisoner's head. He then looked at Yen Wudi. Disciple, come with me. I'll bring you to pay respects to your master's wife. The Dugu Sword Emperor sighed. Yes. Yen Wudi nodded. After paying respects to her, we'll return to Yanjing and bid farewell to everyone. At that time I have something for you. Yen Chuan said to Yen Wudi. Yen Wudi nodded. Let's go. The Dugu Sword Emperor wasn't in the mood for anything else. He waved his sleeves and brought Yen Wudi up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the distance. He watched the two of them leave. Yen Chuan looked at Poisoner's corpse again. His head had been chopped off. All that was left was a headless corpse. A few embroidered uniformed soldiers quickly searched the headless corpse. Lord, there's nothing on this person. One of the embroidered uniformed soldiers shouted. Perhaps he was in a hurry during the battle. Poisoner's belongings should be in Yanjing City, Huo Guang said after some thought. Chapter 189. Yen Chuan stepped forward. Lord? Huo Guang looked at Yen Chuan in confusion. Cut open his chest. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. Ah yes. Huo Guang replied. Tisk. The gun cut open Poisoner's chest. Ah, where's his heart? Huo Guang asked in surprise. His heart is gone? The embroidered uniform army soldiers were also surprised. Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. Burn it? Yen Chuan took a deep breath. Yes. Several embroidered uniform army soldiers quickly gathered the firewood and lit it. Lord, his heart is broken? How did this happen? Huo Guang asked in confusion. Yang shattering art, it really is the yang shattering art. Yen Chuan's expression turned serious. What do you mean? Feng Shui masters have a special secret art. In a specific environment they can self-detonate their hearts. This is the yang shattering art. If other people are killed they will die. However, Feng Shui masters have a deep understanding of yin and yang. Even if they turn into ghosts after death they can still come back to life. No, it exists in another form. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Lord, you're saying that Poisoner isn't dead? Huo Guang exclaimed. He's dead. However, his spirit isn't destroyed. He used the yang shattering art to turn from a living spirit to a dead spirit. Yen Chuan said. Living spirit? Dead spirit? Huo Guang was confused. At this moment he should be in the netherworld and turned into a dead spirit. Some Feng Shui masters can travel between the netherworld and the netherworld and turn into dead spirits. Perhaps we can see him again in the future. However, it won't be easy to return to the world of the living. There's no need to worry for the time being. Yen Chuan shook his head. Then should we tell the Dugu Sword Emperor? Huo Guang asked again. Yen Chuan shook his head and said, there's no need for that. He has already carried that grudge for 20 years. He doesn't need to carry it anymore. Swish swish swish. The fire burned Poisoner's body. Yen Chuan and the others watched as Poisoner's corpse turned into ashes. Giddy up. Giddy up. In the distance, suddenly 6 or 7 Hanshue horses galloped over. They were all members of the embroidered army. Weren't they guarding the prison? Why are you here? Did something happen in the prison? Huo Guang's expression changed. Your Highness. A few embroidered uniformed soldiers rushed over anxiously. When they got close, everyone quickly got off their horses. What's wrong? Yen Chuan asked doubtfully. Lord Eunuch Lu sent someone to deliver a message. There's a change in the Star Luo Mountain Villa. An embroidered uniformed soldier said anxiously. Yen Chuan raised his eyebrows. Eunuch Lu said that someone is trying to poach the Lord. The 6 people from the Julu Academy might want to take Grand Preceptor Yi Feng into the Julu Academy. The soldier said anxiously. Meng Rongrong? Yen Chuan's expression darkened. Lord, these people. Hua Guang's expression also turned ugly. Hua Guang naturally understood that Yen Chuan was determined to get Yi Feng. Now, a group of people from the Immortal sect wanted to snatch him away? Get on your horses, let's go. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Everyone quickly got on their horses. Giddy up. Giddy up. The group galloped towards the Star Luo Mountain Villa. Star Luo Mountain Villa. In the valley. The 6 people from the Julu Academy sat in a luxurious palace. Miss, this Yi Feng is too ignorant. Miss gave him so much face but he doesn't appreciate it? Yeah, with his constitution, Miss gave him the essence-boosting pill and even invited him into the Julu Academy. Yet he still pretends to be virtuous. Everyone was criticizing Yi Feng, but Meng Rongrong only smiled. It's fine. It's fine to wait a few days. Moreover, Yen Chuan and Yi Feng are seriously playing chess again. I want to see the result. Also, since Yen Chuan is here, it's good to bring him into the Julu Academy. Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Chapter 190. Giddy up. Giddy up. In the outer valley of the Star Net Villa, the sound of galloping horses could be heard. Hu. Yen Chuan pulled on the reins. The Hanshue horses neighed loudly, and the embroidered uniform guards behind them all stopped. Emperor equal to the Emperor? The Emperor is here. He's really a king on par with me. The surrounding Go masters immediately revealed shocked expressions. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Yen Chuan anymore. When everyone looked at Yen Chuan, they all showed reverence. One had to know that the chess saint Yi Feng was an undefeated legend. The young man in front of him had actually defeated a legend? How good was this person's Go skills? Lu Jin spotted Yen Chuan from afar and quickly approached him. Lord, you're finally here. Lu Jin exhaled deeply. How is it? Yen Chuan asked in a deep voice. That day the old slave went with everyone from the Julu Academy. Lu Jin immediately recounted the events of that day. Yen Chuan listened carefully. Lord, that's it. Lu Jin explained in detail. Taking a deep breath, Yen Chuan nodded and smiled. Lu Jin, you've matured. Well done. Yes, thank the Lord. Lu Jin said immediately. But Lord, the old slave still doesn't understand. I didn't say anything at that time. Why didn't Yi Feng accept the goodwill of the Julu Academy? Lu Jin asked curiously. Yi Feng is a wise man. He knows that once he accepts it, he can't take it back. Moreover, during the game of Go, I told him a lot. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Lu Jin was still a little puzzled. At this time Yi Feng's grandson also came over. Yi Lin greets the emperor. Yi Lin still looked at Yen Chuan in an unfriendly manner. You are the grandson that Grand Tutor Yi Feng values the most? Yen Chuan said with a smile. Grandfather is resting for the time being, but he told me that if the Lord comes, I am to lead you to the middle of the valley so you can rest first. Yi Lin took a deep breath and said. Before Yen Chuan could say anything, another person walked up from nearby. Changqing. Changqing walked over and said with a smile, Emperor equal to 1. Senior. Yi Lin said politely. Changqing nodded at Yi Lin and turned to look at Yen Chuan. Oh, it's Changqing? Yen Chuan smiled. Young mistress knows that you are here and specially asked me to invite you over. She has something important to discuss with you. Changqing said with a smile. Yi Lin, Yi Feng is resting now. Let me borrow your guest. Changqing said with a smile. Of course. Yi Lin was naturally polite. Yen Chuan looked at Changqing quietly. Then he smiled and said, All right, then I'll have to trouble you. Please. Changqing said with a smile. Hua Guang, leave 2 people to wait for me in the outer valley. Bring the rest back to Beijing to look for poisoner's relics. Yen Chuan ordered. Yes. Hua Guang replied. Lu Jin, follow me into the valley. Yes. Yen Chuan and Lu Jin quickly entered the middle of the valley under Changqing's lead. In the middle of the valley, the environment was beautiful and hundreds of flowers were blooming. There was a waterfall in the distance and a large lake in the middle. It looked like a fairyland. The environment is great. Yen Chuan praised. That's right. There aren't many natural environments like this. Changqing sighed. As they spoke, they arrived at a pavilion by the lake. At this moment, Meng Rongrong was sitting in the pavilion, drinking tea and looking at the lake. 4 Julu Academy students who were with Changqing stood at the side of the pavilion. Chapter 191. Eldest Miss Yen Chuan is here. Changqing shouted. Meng Rongrong turned around and stood up slightly. Prince Yen, we meet again. Meng Rongrong smiled. I dare not. I have never met you before. Yen Chuan smiled. Ah. Everyone was slightly stunned. Meng Rongrong smiled and gently took off the bamboo hat on her head. As soon as the bamboo hat was taken off, a peerless beauty was revealed. There was a beauty mole at the corner of her eye, which showed Meng Rongrong's peerless beauty. Ah. Outside the pavilion, Yi Lin looked at Meng Rongrong in surprise. Obviously, Meng Rongrong's beauty had a great impact on Yi Lin. Lu Jin was a eunuch. Although he was stunned, he did not have any desire. Yen Chuan was also stunned, but he was very calm and did not make a fool of himself. Have a seat. Meng Rongrong smiled. This smile was like 100 flowers blooming. Yi Lin, who was at the side, was stunned. Chongqing and the others also blushed slightly. They did not dare to look at eldest miss again. Okay. Yen Chuan nodded. Meng Rongrong and Yen Chuan sat down. Lu Jin stood behind Yen Chuan. Chongqing and the others stood behind Meng Rongrong. Outside the pavilion, Yi Lin looked and realized that he had lost his composure. He looked at the pavilion again and then left reluctantly. I have been studying Prince Yan's chess game these few days. It is very exciting. Meng Rongrong smiled. Thank you. Yen Chuan said directly. Yen Chuan didn't stand on ceremony. He picked up the tea and drank it. What does Prince Yen think of the Julu Academy? Meng Rongrong asked. I don't have any opinions. I haven't been there before, so I can't comment on it. If Miss Meng has something to say, you may as well say it directly, Yen Chuan said with a faint smile. Although Yen Chuan's tone was polite, Meng Rongrong could hear the distance between the lines. I'll get straight to the point. With your ability, I'm sure you can guess what the Julu Academy is like. I invited you here to ask if you're interested in joining the Julu Academy, Meng Rongrong said with a smile. Enter the Julu Academy? Yen Chuan pondered. That's right. You should understand that although the Julu Academy can't be considered one of the top sects in the world, it is much better than your Dae sect. Moreover, the Julu Academy has been passed down for 50,000 years, Meng Rongrong said. 50,000 years? Yen Chuan thought for a moment. This was because Yen Chuan had never heard of the Julu Academy in his previous life. What do you think? Meng Rongrong said with a smile. After taking a deep breath, Yen Chuan put down his teacup and said solemnly, Yen Chuan can see the sincerity in Miss Meng's invitation. Yen Chuan thanks you. Meng Rongrong smiled faintly. However, I'm very sorry. I Yen Chuan have my own way of thinking. I have my own path. Although the Julu Academy is good, it's not what I want. Yen Chuan shook his head. Oh. Meng Rongrong frowned. Also, Miss Meng's previous actions, were they not open and above board? Yen Chuan asked in a low voice. Yen Chuan, what did you say? Chongqing immediately glared. Yen Chuan glanced at Chongqing and ignored him. Instead, he stared at Meng Rongrong with a questioning gaze. Not open and above board? Are you saying that Chongqing is an official in the Yen state? Meng Rongrong asked in a low voice. No, I don't care about what happened in the past. As long as it doesn't threaten the Yen state, I can turn a blind eye. I'm talking about the matter of Miss Meng meeting Grand Preceptor Yi Feng a few days ago. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. Oh, am I not open and above board? Meng Rongrong asked in a low voice. Chapter 192. Imperial Tutor Yi Feng is a citizen of the Yen state. You tried to tempt my citizen without my permission. That's not fair and square. That's the first reason. When I played chess with Imperial Tutor Yi Feng, it was obvious that I had a goal and a decision to make. Before the matter was settled, you rudely interfered. That's not fair and square enough. That's the second reason. Miss Meng, what do you think? Yen Chuan asked in a low voice. Bastard, does Miss Meng need to answer to you? Someone shouted from the side. The Julu Academy accepting students is his good fortune. It's your Yen state's good fortune. Another person shouted. Ah, good fortune. Shangrua, I tricked all the great scholars of the Julu Academy. That's their good fortune, and also your Julu Academy's good fortune. Yen Chuan shouted coldly. How dare you? Arrogant. That's enough. Meng Rongrong waved her hand and stopped the person behind her from speaking. Meng Rongrong smiled slightly. Are you trying to anger me and make the Julu Academy give up on accepting Yi Feng? I Yen Chuan am not that despicable. Yi Feng is a citizen of the Yen state. I believe in his character. He won't switch to the Julu Academy just because of some temptations. Yen Chuan laughed. Then what do you mean? Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. I'm just stating a fact. Miss Ming, I know that the Julu Academy has countless practitioners and is very strong. The Yen state doesn't care about you at all. However, an academy that has been passed down for 50,000 years must have its own principles. Does the Julu Academy's principles include bullying others? Yen Chuan said in a low voice. Bullying others? Meng Rongrong looked at Yen Chuan strangely. Are you saying that I'm a bully? Isn't that right? Poaching Yen State's people, doesn't that count? Yen Chuan said with a smile. Meng Rongrong raised her eyebrows. She was somewhat angered by Yen Chuan's crooked reasoning. However, she rationally realized that what Yen Chuan said was not wrong. If the Yen State was considered as a sect, then her wantonly poaching people was indeed a bully. The Julu Academy has been passed down for 50,000 years. What it relies on is not only strength but also principles. This is the foundation of the Julu Academy. My previous actions were thoughtless. However, if Yifeng doesn't want to stay in the Yen State, I will definitely take him away. Meng Rongrong said in a deep voice. That's natural. If I, Yen Chuan, am unable to keep Yifeng, then you can take him away. I won't stop you. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said with a smile. Stop you? Just you? A person behind Meng Rongrong said disdainfully. Miss Meng, you won't rob him, right? Yen Chuan said with a smile. Meng Rongrong's eyes flashed with anger. Yen Chuan's words made it seem as if she was a despicable person. Yen Chuan, keep dreaming. Yifeng is a person who is about to die. Only the Julu Academy is his home. Only the Julu Academy can let him display his talents. How can he stay? Another person shouted. That's right. What can you give him? Meng Rongrong said in a deep voice. No matter what I can give him, I think that after playing another game of chess with Yifeng, he will definitely not want to enter the Julu Academy. I didn't mean anything by all that I said just now. I just want to emphasize that I hope Miss Meng won't make things difficult for him. Yen Chuan said with a serious face. Haha, make things difficult for him? Do you think that Yifeng will stay in the small Yen state? Meng Rongrong said in a strange voice. Obviously, in Meng Rongrong's mind, the small Yen state was indeed not worthy of being shown in public. I'm sure. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Haha, keep dreaming. That's impossible. The Julu Academy students said in disbelief. Meng Rongrong raised her eyebrows as if she had sensed something. At this moment, Yen Chuan suddenly stood up and bowed slightly to Meng Rongrong. Miss Meng, please fulfill my wish. Meng Rongrong's face twitched slightly. She couldn't see through Yen Chuan. Why was he so confident? Fulfill his wish? After the game, if Yifeng is willing to come with us, you. Meng Rongrong said in a deep voice. I'll clap my hands and send you off. Yen Chuan said with a confident smile. Meng Rongrong looked at Yen Chuan strangely. As long as you don't use underhanded methods, I'll fulfill your wish. Meng Rongrong nodded. Meng Rongrong was also full of confidence. The Julu Academy was a paradise for the wise. People like Yifeng yearned for it. Yifeng was old, so how could he give it up? Yen Chuan's actions are honorable. Yen Chuan said with certainty. After that, Yen Chuan led Lu Jin out of the pavilion. Eldest young miss, has this brat lost his mind? How is that possible? Someone stepped forward and asked. That's right. I admit that this kid plays chess well, but in my academy there are many people who are better than him. It's impossible for Yifeng to be so short-sighted as to not be willing to follow us just because of a game of chess. While everyone was criticizing Yen Chuan, Meng Rongrong felt irritated. She didn't know why. Chapter 193. Star Luo Manor, Soaring Palace. Grandfather, what is that Yen Chuan up to? Yi Lin said unhappily. What's wrong? Yifeng put down the book in his hand and smiled. What did he say? Flatten the island in the middle of the lake and want to play Go with you? What does this game have to do with the island? He's looking for trouble. Yi Lin said unhappily. Didn't he explain? Yifeng smiled. He explained, but what kind of explanation is that? The Grand Preceptor's Go skills are sufficient, but he doesn't know how deep they are. I will let the Grand Preceptor see the true extent of his Go skills. What is chess? Grandpa, look, what is he saying? How can you not know about your Go skills? You still need a brat like him to tell you what to do? Yi Lin said angrily. Then fix the island in the middle of the lake according to what he said. Yifeng shook his head and smiled. But. Yi Lin felt even more strange. Go. Yifeng smiled. Alright. Yi Lin sighed. Flatten the island in the middle of the lake and build a Go platform? At the lakeside, Meng Rongrong, Changqing, and the others looked at the busy lake with strange expressions. First, young miss, what is Yen Chuan doing? Playing Go in the middle of the lake? Is there such a thing? Changqing asked curiously. Let's wait. The game is about to start. We will know then. Meng Rongrong said. All right. In the valley, in a large hall, fog filled the air, making it difficult to see one's fingers. At the center of the hall was a desk. 8 oil lamps were lit. Lu Jin was grinding while Yen Chuan was writing on a piece of paper with the Dream Immortal brush. On the paper, Yen Chuan was writing the word fog. When the word fog appeared, the fog in the surroundings trembled. Lu Jin, how many do you have? Yen Chuan asked in a deep voice. The Lord has already written 109 of them, 108 fog characters. The word, fusion. Lu Jin said respectfully. All right, that's enough. Yen Chuan nodded. I'll rest for 2 days. You go and tell Yi Feng that I'll see you at Huxin Island 2 days later. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Lu Jin replied. Star Net Villa in the outer valley. The group of Go masters were no longer playing Go. However, none of them left. Instead, they all went to the entrance of the valley. A group of household servants stopped him. I heard that the Emperor's equal and Master Yi are preparing to play a second game of Go. Can you pass on the message? We only wish to watch the battle. A white-browed chess master said politely. That's right, we won't say anything. We just want to watch the battle. Please report this to Master Yi. We really want to watch this game. The group of Go masters longed. The previous game was already a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Now, it was rumored that the second game would be even more exciting. To ordinary people, it was merely a lively atmosphere. However, to these Go masters who loved Go as much as their lives, this was a fatal temptation. So much so that everyone was jointly pleading just to watch this game. Grandfather, the Go masters outside are jointly requesting an audience. However, wouldn't it be breaking the rules if so many people come in at once? Yi Lin asked with a frown. If they want to watch, then watch. When the time comes, don't stop anyone who wants to watch. Yi Feng said with a smile. Yes. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Yen Chuan washed up and slowly walked out of his residence. Lu Jin led the way to the small lake. Chapter 194. At this moment, all the Go masters stood by the lake, watching eagerly as Yen Chuan walked over step by step. There was worship in their eyes, but they also felt speechless. They finally obtained the right to watch the Go game after much difficulty. However, they discovered that the two were playing in the center of the lake. How could they watch this? At a pavilion on the other side, Meng Rongrong wore a conical bamboo hat as she sat on a stone bench, drinking tea and watching quietly. Changqing and the others stood behind her, watching this scene strangely. No one knew what Yen Chuan was up to. There were some simple cooking utensils, pastries, and a Go board in the center of the lake. There were also 2 benches for resting. A white-haired old man sat on the Go board. This old man showed an indifferent expression as he watched Yen Chuan walk over from a distance. Yen Chuan also saw the old man. However, he did not say anything as he was separated by the lake. Emperor equal to the Emperor, please? Yi Lin stepped forward. All right. Yen Chuan nodded. Yen Chuan carried the Jade Emperor's sword on his back, and Lu Jin carried a painting on her back. They followed Yi Lin onto a small boat, which quickly reached the island in the center. They reached the shore. Yen Chuan greets the Grand Preceptor. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Yi Feng greets the Emperor equal to the Emperor. Yi Feng also said politely. Yen Chuan chose this place to play Go with the Grand Preceptor to show off the exquisiteness of my Go Dao. I hope that the Grand Preceptor will like it. Yen Chuan said with a smile. I'll wait and see. Yi Feng nodded. Yi Feng did not say much. Yen Chuan did not say much either, as now was not the time. Lu Jin. Yen Chuan looked at Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin quickly unfurled the spatial painting and slowly took out a piece of paper. Yi Lin's eyes widened in surprise. In the distance, in the gazebo by the lake, Meng Rongrong said strangely, a spatial magic treasure? Yi Feng's eyes flashed, but he didn't say anything. Lu Jin lifted the chessboard on the stone table and pressed the piece of paper under it. Melt? Good writing, but what does it mean? Yi Feng smiled. You'll know soon enough. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Lu Jin, go. Yen Chuan looked at Lu Jin. Yes. Lu Jin stepped onto the small boat from before, and the household servant quickly steered the boat to the shore. Then Lu Jin took out pieces of rice paper from the scroll. He placed one of them by the lakeside and used a rock to press it down. Buzz. The small lake was suddenly surrounded by mist. What's going on? Fog. Why is there fog here? Indeed, only this area has fog. There is no fog anywhere else. That piece of paper? Could it be an immortal magic treasure? The Go Masters exclaimed in shock. However, Lu Jin ignored them. Instead, she went around the small lake and quickly arranged the pieces of rice paper, pressing them down with a rock to secure them. The fog grew thicker. With the lake's water replenishing the fog rose. Many gazes focused on each piece of rice paper. Startling wind and rain? Yi Feng exclaimed in shock. The Grand Tutor knows about it as well? Yin Chuan smiled. Your father mentioned it before. Unexpectedly, you actually reached this level at such a young age. Yi Feng sighed. Yin Chuan did not correct Xiaoqin. He only smiled faintly and said, when cultivators play Go, they infuse their magic energy into the chessboard. Right now, we are only in the strength realm and naturally cannot do that. I used a trick, using fog to manifest the Go Dao after gaining magic energy. Let's wait and see. Yi Feng said with a smile. At the side, Yi Feng's grandson revealed a stunned expression as he stared at Yin Chuan. It was like he was seeing Yin Chuan for the first time. At the pavilion by the lakeside, startling wind and rain? Was this written by Yin Chuan? Changqing exclaimed. Chapter 195. It's not a stroke of the brush but a stroke of the brush, Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. What? A stroke of the brush? A stroke of the brush? How is that possible? The crowd exclaimed. Indeed, it can't be wrong. Although I haven't reached that level, I can still see that his chess skills are so good, and his calligraphy skills are so good. It's a pity that my brother isn't here. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Yin Chuan take the lead. Meng Rongrong frowned. There was envy and dissatisfaction in her tone. Young mistress brother? Mr. Monroe? Yes, Mr. Monroe was the genius of the academy back then. If it wasn't for that incident back then... No matter what, Mr. Monroe is still young mistress brother. The relationship between you two can't be severed. Otherwise, Mr. Monroe wouldn't have given young mistress the essence-boosting pill. Changqing said with a smile. Meng Rongrong nodded. She didn't want to say anything else. Not long after, Lu Jin arranged the 108 fog characters around the lake. For a moment, the entire lake was shrouded in a thick fog, and the thick fog was rolling non-stop. It was impossible to see the two people in the center of the lake. The chess masters couldn't see the chessboard in the lake in the first place. Now that it was shrouded in fog, they couldn't see anything at all. However, no one complained. Instead, they became even more excited. On the island in the middle of the lake, Yi Feng looked at the fog in surprise. Yilin's mouth was wide open. This is? Yi Feng asked. The Julu Academy must have countless wise people, and many of them have made great achievements in chess. Although I haven't been to the Julu Academy, I can feel the flourishing culture there. However, my calligraphy today contains some special Taoist rhymes. What I want to show the Grand Tutor is the way of chess in my heart. Grand Tutor, watch carefully. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Please? Yi Feng gestured for him to move aside. Yin Chuan didn't stand on ceremony. He picked up a black piece between his index and middle fingers and placed it in the center of the chessboard. Pa! A piece was placed in the Tianyuan position. Boom! Suddenly there was a loud clap of thunder in the sky. Rumble! The white fog in the lake suddenly started to circle around the small island in the center. It circled clockwise, faster and faster. It was like a huge whirlpool with the island in the center. At the same time, a huge dark cloud had appeared above the white fog vortex. When the piece was placed in Tianyuan, a loud thunderclap came from this dark cloud. In the center of the dark clouds, a hole appeared. It was as if a black chess piece had been placed, and a large chessboard had appeared on the dark clouds. Hua! The surrounding mortals all looked at this scene in horror. In the pavilion by the lake. Words? Showing the chi aura when the brush falls? Yin Chuan's words fused with the chessboard? Meng Rongrong asked in surprise. The fusion of calligraphy and chess? Changqing and the others were also stunned. How old is Yin Chuan? The people outside were already shocked, and Yi Feng, who was on the island in the center of the lake, felt the same way. For a moment, it was as if the chessboard had fused with the surrounding white fog. Yi Feng felt as if he was immersed in it. 4-4. Yi Feng placed a white piece. Neigh, neigh, neigh. In the rolling white fog, there was the sound of countless horses neighing. Boom. In the sky there was another loud clap of thunder. Above the dark clouds, a white cloud spot suddenly appeared, as if it was reflecting the chessboard below. The sound of horses? Why is there the sound of horses? Elin asked in surprise. This fog enters the chessboard and the chess pieces are all in the fog. When the troops are arranged and the pieces are placed, there will be thousands of troops in ambush. Yin Chuan explained. Pa. As he spoke, Yin Chuan placed another piece. Nay. I'm invincible. Kill, kill, kill. In the white fog, tsunami-like war cries came, as if waiting for Yin Chuan's orders. The hot-blooded cries stirred the hearts of the people. Elin was so frightened that he fell to the ground, his face full of horror. Yifeng closed his eyes and felt it. When he closed his eyes, Yifeng felt like he was in the sea of clouds, sitting alone on a high platform. The sea of clouds surged in all directions, and in the chessboard in his hand were thousands of troops, waiting for him to arrange the troops, waiting for him to arrange the chess pieces. When he placed a piece, it was like placing thousands of troops in the sea of clouds. The chessboard was the battlefield and the chessboard was the end of the world. His blood, which had been silent for decades, seemed to be ignited at this moment, boiling with zeal. Dominating a region, challenging the world. Chapter 196. Dominating a region and challenging the world. Yifeng's eyes suddenly opened. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. Yin Chuan was clearly sitting right in front of him, but when he closed his eyes, he felt like Yin Chuan was sitting on the other side of the sea of clouds, arranging troops with him. When they played chess in the past, arranging troops was just a personal thought, an illusion. But now he felt like he was seeing it with his own eyes. Tens of thousands of soldiers, a magnificent army? This is my go game? Yifeng frowned. That's right. Continue. Yin Chuan nodded. Sure. With me I am invincible. The two of them continued to place down their go pieces and arrange their troops. For a moment, Yifeng closed his eyes and sensed that millions of soldiers filled the sea of clouds. They filled the entire world. The two of them were not fighting Go but fighting the entire world. Wherever the Go pieces were placed, the troops would arrive. Every Go piece represented a different meaning. Some were bright Go pieces while others were dark Go pieces. The bright Go pieces became tens of thousands of soldiers, while the dark Go pieces became tens of thousands of hidden murderous intents. More and more Go pieces were placed on the Go board. The shouts in the white fog grew louder and louder. Clap. Yin Chuan placed a Go piece on the edge of the Go board and slowly pushed it toward the center. Battle cries could be heard from the white fog. Kill. Kill. Hiya. Hiya. All troops charge. It was like a magnificent army suddenly raised their sabers and charged toward Yifeng's battlefield. The black Go piece came to a stop. Bang. Rumble. Kill. Go all out. Clang. 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 Roars could be heard as if two armies were fighting. In the sea of clouds, a great battle broke out. The original arrangement of troops ended and a new phase began. When the Go pieces were placed, the world moved. Ambitious and ruthless characters rose to fight for the world. Yifeng closed his eyes and felt like he was in the middle of this exceptionally vast battle. The sounds of fighting and the neighing of horses could be heard continuously. In this noisy environment, Yifeng was not disturbed at all. Instead, he became even more engrossed in the game of Go. His mind was completely focused on the game of Go. He commanded the troops in the Go bowl to attack the Cloud Sea battlefield, to attack the enemy, to attack everything. It was a showdown between two great chess masters. At the side, Yifeng's grandson was like a small boat in the middle of a roaring sea. He was shaking unsteadily, and his heart was trembling with fear. Vaguely, Elin could see valiant generals condensed in the white mist charging forward, some even charging past him. Elin had never felt such excitement in his life. At this moment, when Elin looked at Yin Chuan again, there was no longer a trace of unhappiness. There was only fear. This person was too terrifying. Above the lake, thick fog was rolling. No one at the lakeside could see what was inside. He could only see the dense fog that was constantly rotating. It was incomparably mysterious. The spinning speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, as if it was corresponding to the internal layout of the chessboard. Kill. Who? Rumble. I'm invincible. Charge. Kill, kill, kill. Roars of wind and thunder came from the white mist. The sounds of thousands of troops fighting and charging rang out. At this moment, the Go master at the lakeside was stupefied. Why are there such sounds? Roars of wind and thunder? The sounds of battle on the battlefield? What is going on inside? Chapter 197. The Go Masters felt confused, agitated, and excited. They even cheered in their hearts. The Go Dao. This was something that they had been pursuing all this time. They only knew that the Go Dao was profound. However, this was the first time they discovered that the Go Dao could be so powerful. Go. Go. The Go Masters clenched their fists tightly as they looked at the white fog. They also looked at the dark clouds in the sky. Thunder rumbled endlessly in the dark clouds. Every time there was thunder, it was a Go stone. The black Go stones were dark pits, and the white Go stones were white clouds. The Go Masters looked at the white fog and listened to the sounds of battle as they quickly recorded the Go stones with their brushes. This grand occasion of 1,000 years would definitely be passed down through the ages. In a pavilion at the side, Meng Rongrong, Chongqing, and the others frowned as they looked at the sky. First, young miss? What's going on? Chongqing asked with a frown. Yin Xuan? When he wrote the character for fog, he infused the rhythm of the battlefield. Hence, when the two placed their Go stones, the character and the Go stones merged. When they placed their Go stones, they created a vast battlefield, setting up the world. Meng Rongrong explained. Some of the great scholars in the academy can do that as well. However, they rarely play like this in front of others. This is Chongqing's first time seeing this. Chongqing sighed. First time? Ah. Let's continue watching. Meng Rongrong's eyes grew increasingly frustrated. On the other side, Lu Jin sighed as she watched this scene. Then, she instructed an embroidered uniformed soldier beside her. You stay here. Eunuch Lu, you are leaving? That embroidered uniformed soldier asked, feeling confused. Right. The Lord has another mission for me. You will stay here to serve the Lord. If the Lord has any requests, you will be responsible for relaying them. Lu Jin said. Eunuch Lu, don't worry. That embroidered uniformed soldier immediately guaranteed. All right. Lu Jin nodded. While everyone was focused on the Go game in the middle of the lake, Lu Jin left the middle of the valley. Half a day later, in the Yen capital Imperial Palace, Lu Jin met with Yen Emperor. Lu Jin? I heard that Yin Xuan is playing against Yi Feng? Yin Di asked curiously. Yes, the Lord sent me to deliver a message to you. Lu Jin said solemnly. Yen Emperor asked curiously. Lu Jin took a deep breath and said, The Lord says that it's about time. He wants the Yen Emperor to send a messenger pigeon to the front lines of the southern border and send troops to the state of Zheng to take back the 42 cities in the northern border of the state of Zheng. 42 cities in the northern frontier? Is it time now? Yen Di narrowed his eyes. Yes, the Lord has said that you will be able to take it now. You have to be quick or else there might be unforeseen circumstances. Okay, I got it. Yen Emperor nodded. In that case, Lu Jin will take her leave. Lu Jin said. All right. Yen Di nodded. After watching Lu Jin leave, Yen Di frowned and fell into deep thought. Outside the imperial palace, Lu Jin saw Hua Guang, whose clothes were somewhat tattered as soon as she came out. Eunuch Lu, how was it? Hua Guang asked with a smile. According to the Lord's request, I've already informed Yen Emperor. What happens next is none of my business. Lu Jin said with a smile. The Lord is really amazing. He's playing a game of Go in the valley and another game outside. Hua Guang sighed. Actually, the Lord should be playing 3 games right now. Lu Jin said with a smile. The layout outside the valley is one game, the game inside the valley is another, and the game with Meng Rongrong is another game. We have nothing compared to the Julu Academy. In comparison, Yi Feng is definitely more confident in the Julu Academy. Even if he's willing to play against the Lord, it's still the same. If we want to change Yi Feng's mind and defeat Meng Rongrong, we have to win the first 2 games. We have to win the first 2 games to stimulate the 3rd game and defeat Meng Rongrong. Lu Jin said in a deep voice. Chapter 198. That's right. No matter who it is, no matter how many reasons they have, they're all willing to go to Julu Academy. Those who aren't willing to help ordinary people in the power state. I hope that the Lord will win. Hua Guang nodded. We'll definitely win. Lu Jin said solemnly. Yes. Also, the Lord asked you to come back and look for Poisoner's relics. Have you found them? Lu Jin asked doubtfully. Motherfucker, it's the Zhao family who was hiding Poisoner. When the Poisoner was forced out, the Zhao family took everything and fled Beijing. I've already sent people to hunt them down. No one can take away what the Lord wants. Hua Guang said in a deep voice. Lu Jin nodded. In the middle of the valley, on the island in the middle of the lake, thick fog pervaded the air and killing intent was everywhere. Yilin could not get a word in at this moment. Yan Chuan and Yi Feng stared at the chessboard with rapt attention. The dragon has been formed. Wait for me to slaughter it, Yi Feng said solemnly. A white piece landed on the chessboard. As the white chess piece was placed, a roar came from the surrounding fog again. Yi Feng closed his eyes and once again saw the countless troops on the sea of clouds attacking according to his plan. 10,000 arrows. Yes. Bam. 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 100,000 arrows soared into the sky like a storm, shooting toward the other side of the sea of clouds, toward the forces controlled by Yan Chuan. Yi Feng's heart was surging as he watched. The 10,000 arrows were shot out simultaneously, not because of their power but because of their momentum. A feeling of surging momentum arose spontaneously. Yan Chuan stared at Yi Feng. Seeing that Yi Feng was enjoying this feeling, he revealed a satisfied smile. Slay my dragon? How could it be that easy? Reversal of yin and yang, sacrifice death for life. Yan Chuan smiled. On the chessboard, Yan Chuan destroyed 3 of his own pieces, but because these 3 pieces were seeking death, the dragon came back to life. Once the dragon came back to life, the slaying of the dragon failed. And to counter Yi Feng, she'll block. Dang 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 dang. Everyone charge. Yi Feng closed his eyes. Above the cloud sea, Xiao Chen's initial advantage immediately reversed. The 2 armies clashed in close combat, instantly causing countless casualties. Yi Feng raised his eyebrows. He pondered for a moment. Grandpa, it's time to eat. Yi Lin whispered from the side. No. Yi Feng continued to look at the chessboard. I know that you won't be able to eat at this time. We don't know how long this game of chess will take. This is a fasting pill. 1 pill will last you 15 days. Yan Chuan handed over a small bottle. Yi Feng stopped playing Go and looked at the small bottle. Then he took a deep breath and nodded. All right. Venerable Grand Tutor, how is this prince's Go setting? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. This is the first time I have seen something like this. It is exquisite and peerless. Yi Feng said gravely. My Go pieces are not just on this chessboard. Yan Chuan said with a smile. In the future, my Go pieces will not just be here. No matter how big the sky is, everything will be my chessboard. Yan Chuan said seriously. Yi Feng narrowed his eyes. Venerable Grand Tutor, you don't believe me? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. The Lord has great aspirations. This old man is already old. Yi Feng said, shaking his head. Venerable Grand Tutor is undervaluing yourself. Oh, how are you old? Yan Chuan countered with a smile. Yi Feng smiled faintly and did not answer. Venerable Grand Tutor, what do you think of my Yin state compared to the Julu Academy? Yan Chuan asked again. Compared? Yi Feng's eyes flashed. Yi Feng was an extremely intelligent person. He immediately understood Yan Chuan's meaning. However, he looked at Yan Chuan with uncertainty. Yan Chuan wanted to develop the Yin state to be as powerful as the Julu Academy? Is that possible? Yi Feng asked with a frown. Chapter 199. Is that possible? Yi Feng frowned. The first person to become an immortal before he became an immortal, he looked up at the sky and said the same thing as you. Is it possible? Yan Chuan smiled. Yi Lin was at a loss. The first immortal? Who was the first immortal? Did he say that? Yi Lin was at a loss, but Yi Feng understood. It was not important whether the first person to become an immortal said anything. What was important was Yan Chuan's current attitude. Was that even possible? Yes, why not? Yi Feng smiled and shook his head. The Lord's idea is admirable, but I can tell you with certainty that it's absolutely possible. Yan Chuan said again. Oh. Yi Feng narrowed his eyes. In terms of the political system, is the political system of the country not perfect? Yan Chuan asked. Perfect, it's a pity that in the end, it won't amount to anything. The world is so big and the countries all belong to the immortal sections. They belong to any immortal sect. It has never changed. Yi Feng shook his head. Yan Chuan frowned slightly. Yan Chuan naturally understood where Yi Feng's certainty came from. For Yi Feng, although he could not enter the world of cultivators, it should not be too difficult for him to gather some information. Yi Feng said that the country had always been suppressed by the immortal sects? Yan Chuan was silent for a moment. Could it be that in this world the dynasty had reached its end? What kind of place was he in? The Lord? Yifeng was puzzled. Yin Chuan came back to his senses. He no longer wanted to dwell on this matter. Instead, he shook his head and said, "As you said, the country has always been at the bottom. But why does this kind of government still exist?" Yifeng frowned slightly. Because a country has its own uniqueness and a strong vitality that cannot be obliterated. Even if they are at the bottom, they will still be immortal. Yin Chuan said solemnly. So what if it is as you say? Yifeng frowned. Yin Chuan smiled and said, aside from the gate of immortality, what can you see in Yin state? In the cultivation world, there is the Julu Academy. In the Yin state, there is the Imperial College. In the cultivation world, there is the Buddhist and Taoist sections. In the Yin state, there is the Temple of Heaven. In the cultivation world, there is the geomancy of the netherworld. In the Yin state, there is the Diguan to measure the power. Do you think it's related? Yin Chuan smiled. Yifeng's face suddenly turned serious as he stared at Yin Chuan. This was because Yifeng could hear a great ambition in Yin Chuan's tone. This ambition was something Yifeng had never seen before. Yin Chuan's goal was not only as big as the Julu Academy, but also the world. Not just the world of mortals but the world of cultivators as well. That's impossible. Yifeng shouted. Grand Tutor, let's continue. Think about it again. A few days ago, when Meng Rongrong tried to recruit you, why didn't you agree immediately? Yin Chuan smiled. Yifeng narrowed his eyes. I think you have your own considerations. Think about it again. Why do you have those considerations? Yifeng, what exactly do you want? What's the most important to you? Yin Chuan laughed. Let's continue. Yifeng said solemnly. Yifeng did not want to be entangled in this matter. He wanted to use the game of chess to forget those thoughts that he should not have. Alright, let's continue. Yin Chuan nodded. 1 month later. Wind and thunder rumbled and the clouds roared. The valley in the valley of the Star Luo Mountain Manor had already become a mythical place. Countless Go masters waited with surging hearts. Just waiting was enough to express their boundless devotion to the Go Dao. Meng Rongrong, Chang Qin, and the others had already waited for a month in a pavilion by the lake. Chapter 200. Thunder rumbled in the sky, horses neighed in the fog and an army roared. The tragedy of the battle was on full display. It had been a month but the game was still not over. Meng Rongrong stared gloomily at the lake shrouded in white fog. Yin Chuan. Meng Rongrong's eyes flashed with irritation. Young mistress, you don't have to worry. Yin Chuan can't beat you. Yifeng isn't a fool. Why would he give up the chance to live forever? That's right, young mistress. How could a game of Go convince Yifeng? The Julu Academy students kept comforting Meng Rongrong. Meng Rongrong let out a long sigh. Then she smiled bitterly and said, I thought so too, but I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling. It's as if Yin Chuan's chips are getting higher and higher as the game goes on. That's impossible. The great scholars of the Julu Academy should be able to do that. Chongqing frowned. Did you see the cloud chess game reflected in the sky? Meng Rongrong asked in a low voice. I saw it, but so what? Yifeng's rhythm is getting smoother. Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. Rhythm? Smoother? It's just that I'm liking this game more and more. Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. But it's just a game of Go. It doesn't mean anything. Chongqing frowned. I hope so. Meng Rongrong took a deep breath. Miss, you don't have to be so concerned. If Yifeng really doesn't want to enter the Julu Academy, then it's his bad luck. Chongqing advised. No, it's not just Yifeng's problem. There's also Yin Chuan. I'm Meng Rongrong. How can I lose to Yin Chuan? How could he lose to a mortal? You think you can steal the person I want right in front of me? Absolutely not. Meng Rongrong said in a deep voice. Not only did it involve self-esteem, but it also involved the confidence of the past. Meng Rongrong could not lose. Beijing. It was a large restaurant, and behind the restaurant was an extremely elegant courtyard for rent. There were 8 Taoist priests sitting in the courtyard. The leader was none other than Zhu Jiansheng of the Dai sect. Zhu Jiansheng looked at the other 7 people and said, Junior brothers, I'll have to trouble you this time. You're welcome, senior brother. As long as you say the word, we'll naturally do our best. One of the Taoist priests smiled. Moreover, I'd like to see how the son of the previous sect leader is doing. Another Taoist priest said. Yeah, it's a pity what happened back then. Otherwise, Yin Chuan wouldn't be in the mortal world for the next few years. He would be the young sect leader of the Day sect. However, I didn't expect Yan Chuan to be so famous after returning to Beijing not long ago. He even knows how to play chess. Ah. That's not all. He made Dan Qingzi suffer so much with his mortal body. Ha 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 ha. The group of brothers chatted and laughed. Dan Qingzi is the eldest disciple of King Mai. He used to be high and mighty. I didn't expect Yan Chuan to humiliate him. I heard that he gathered 7 or 8 of his friends to vent their anger on Yan Chuan. Everyone, you have to protect Yan Chuan. Zhu Jiansheng said. Don't worry, senior brother. The previous sect leader Yan Tao took good care of us back then. How can we allow others to humiliate our sect leader's son when he was harmed by a traitor? A Taoist priest said solemnly. That's right. Although there are people in the sect who hate Yan Tao, we are very clear about our grudges. We will definitely ensure that Yan Chuan enters the sect safely. Another person said. Chapter 201. Okay. While the 8 of them were talking, a woman in purple walked out slowly from a side room. She was tall and wore a gorgeous purple robe. Even her hair was purple. But she was wearing a golden mask on her face so no one could see her face clearly. The woman walked elegantly and slowly towards them. They didn't notice her at first, but when they saw her, their faces changed. Walala. The 8 of them jumped up from their chairs at the same time and quickly retreated to the side. They stopped when they were about 20 feet away from the woman. When they looked at her, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Missy, why did you come out? They looked at the woman in fear. I'm sorry, I'll be careful next time. The woman sighed. No, it's our fault. Missy, please don't take it to heart. We were just talking about Yan Chuan. We were about to tell you. Zhu Jiansheng said immediately. The woman in purple was puzzled. Although Yan Chuan just came back, he has a high reputation in Beijing. He has captured a Qi state expert with his strength state cultivation. Now he is playing chess in Xinglua Mountain Villa. I heard that they have been playing chess for a month. It's very exciting. Zhu Jiansheng reported from afar. Yes, Missy. Although Yan Chuan is just an ordinary person, he is very intelligent. It's not a disgrace for Miss Z to have a fiancé like Yan Chuan. Another person said from afar. Fiancé? Ah, how can someone like me be his wife? Miss Z said with a wry smile. Miss Z, please don't think like that. Your marriage was set by Yan Tao and his wife. Uncle Yan Tao will not harm his son. He must have his reasons. Don't think too much. Zhu Jiansheng reported from afar. Miss Z looked at the crowd and shook her head with a wry smile. I've already harmed them. I don't want to harm their son too. No, Miss Z, please don't think like that. The death of Yan Chuan's parents has nothing to do with you. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. Zhu Jiansheng shouted. Is that so? Miss Z shook her head. Zhu Jiansheng looked at his 8 fellow disciples and retreated far away in fear. Just like this, they were not convincing at all. Zhu Jiansheng said with a wry smile, Miss Z, you see, it's not appropriate for us to intervene in your marriage. Why don't we wait until we see Yan Chuan? What do you think? Alas, well, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll go back to my room first. You go and see when he's done with his game. After he's done, help me inform him that I want to meet him. Miss Z sighed slightly. Don't worry, Miss Z. Zhu Jiansheng promised. Don't worry, Miss Z. The other 7 junior brothers also responded. Yes. Miss Z nodded and returned to her room. Crack. When the door closed, the 8 martial brothers all let out a long sigh. Let's go out for a walk. Zhu Jiansheng said. Good. All the junior brothers shouted in agreement. After leaving the restaurant, the 8 Taoist priests walked on the street in silence for a long time. Miss Z is so kind and has such a good character. Why do I feel scared every time I see her? One of them asked. Miss Z is a jinx. So what if she has a good character? Another person frowned. 6th junior brother. Zhu Jiansheng glared at him. Fine, I was wrong. I won't say any more. 6th junior brother suddenly smiled bitterly. Alas, this marriage was arranged when martial uncle Yan Tao was still alive. I don't know what will happen in the future. Zhu Jiansheng sighed slightly. Senior brother, why did you bring Miss Z here? Another person asked. Do you think I wanted to? That day in the drunken Immortal restaurant, I heard that Dan Qingzi wanted to deal with Yan Chuan. I immediately scolded him. Who knew that the drunken Immortal restaurant was Miss Z's property? If she wants to come, would I dare to stop her? Are you going to stop them? Zhu Jiansheng said gloomily. I don't dare to. Forget it, let Yan Chuan deal with it. He is his fiancé. Why should we worry about her? That's right, that's right. The 8 of them walked on the street. Suddenly, in the distant sky, 2 huge bats flew in from outside the city. Dan Qingzi, that guy is here. Zhu Jiansheng's eyes lit up. Chapter 202. Yanjing. Inside the palace. Lu Jin and Huo Guang were currently facing Yan Emperor. Zhao Tianwang, how dare you? Yan Emperor's eyes were filled with anger. Pa. With one palm, the Yan Emperor shattered the tea set on one side. Zhao Tianwang declared himself the emperor and established the state of Zhao? He really has guts. Lu Jin also said solemnly. Huo Guang, when your men went after the Zhao family, did they manage to steal the poisoner's belongings? Yan Emperor suddenly turned his head and looked at Huo Guang. Yes, we managed to get a part of it. However, from the captured Zhao family members, Zhao Tianwang also took a part of it. Huo Guang nodded. Oh? What about it? Yan Emperor's eyes lit up. Huo Guang stared at Yan Emperor and shook his head. Sorry, we'll leave it to the Lord to deal with. Let's wait for the Lord to finish his game. Yan Emperor stared at Huo Guang with a gloomy expression. However, he quickly recovered and smiled. Of course. Yan Emperor, may I ask if the 42 cities in the northern border of the state of Zheng have been handed over? Lu Jin asked. Lu Jin didn't address him as Your Majesty anymore. Yan Emperor also noticed the problem in Lu Jin's words. However, he didn't object. A pigeon reported that the state of Zheng is cooperating. Yan Emperor nodded. That's good. Everything is going according to the Lord's plan. Lu Jin sighed. While the 3 were talking, an angry roar came from the outside. Yan Chuan, you little brat, come out. Thunder rumbled and echoed throughout the palace. The 3 people's faces changed as they walked out of the main hall. At this moment, there were 2 huge bats circling high up in the sky. There were 4 people standing on each of the bats. One of them was the eldest senior brother, who had been captured by the feng shui poison not long ago. He stepped on a bat and hovered in the air. Everyone looked down coldly. Soon he saw Huo Guang. After all, Huo Guang was beside Yan Chuan last time. It's you? Where's Yan Chuan? The green-robed eldest senior brother shouted. I am Yan Emperor. Who are you? Yan Emperor walked to the front. Yan Emperor? It's good that it's you. The state of Zheng's northern border's 42 cities have been handed over to you. Now, release my junior apprentice brother and the state of Zheng's crown prince. Shouted the azure-robed eldest apprentice brother. Release him? Yan Di looked at Huo Guang. No. We are under the Lord's orders to keep them under custody. Unless the Lord gives the order, no one is to be released. Huo Guang shouted. Yan Emperor raised an eyebrow. His expression turned ugly. However, Huo Guang was only loyal to Yan Chuan. Without Yan Chuan's order, he wouldn't dare to release them now. What about Yan Chuan? The azure-robed eldest senior brother shouted. The Lord is playing chess. Wait for the Lord to finish. The Lord is a man of his word, but no one can give the order without the Lord. Huo Guang said solemnly. Playing chess? Did something happen to my junior apprentice brothers? Release my junior apprentice brothers, or we will wash Yan capital with blood today. The azure-robed eldest senior brother shouted. Wash Yan capital with blood? How dare you, Dan Qingzi? Is this King Mai's idea? A provocative voice sounded. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 8 figures shot into the sky and landed on the roof of a palace in Yan capital. They stood on the roof of the palace and glared at the 8 people on the bat. Zhu Jiansheng, it's you? Eldest senior brother Dan Qingzi said coldly. Just, can't you talk nicely? Do you think you're so high up on the bat? Who are you trying to show your arrogance to? Zhu Jiansheng said disdainfully. It's Yan Chuan who went back on his word. Zheng has already returned the cities. Why aren't you releasing them? Dan Qingzi said solemnly. Chapter 203. Did Yan Chuan say he won't let him go? Can't you wait for a game of chess? Zhu Jiansheng said disdainfully. I don't care. I want to see my junior brother now. Dan Qingzi drew his sword and shouted coldly. Xing. Zhu Jiansheng also drew his Chongqing and said, Yanjing is not a place for you to behave atrociously. While the 2 sides were at loggerheads, another purple figure slowly flew up from the distance, flying towards the crowd. Miss Z. Zhu Jiansheng and the others immediately became serious. Dan Qingzi and the others didn't know who this woman was at first, so they still drew their swords and faced her. Retreat. Dan Qingzi's expression changed drastically as he shouted. The two bats immediately flew away. After flying far away, Dan Qingzi looked at the woman in purple with a panicked expression. Miss Z, why are you here? Dan Qingzi said with a fearful expression. My cultivation isn't as high as yours. What are you afraid of? Miss Z said calmly. I wouldn't dare. What are we in front of, Miss Z? Dan Qingzi smiled apologetically. Since that's the case, I'll say something. Miss Z said calmly. Please speak, Miss Z. Dan Qingzi said carefully. You've already waited so many days for your junior brother to be captured. Waiting for Yin Chuan to finish his game shouldn't be a big deal, right? Miss Z said calmly. It's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. Dan Qingzi's expression changed. Below, Huguang looked at the sky strangely. He then whispered to Lu Jin in disdain, Why does this brat look so despicable? Lu Jin smiled and sighed. No matter what, it's best that he didn't disrupt the Lord's plan. Huguang nodded. Zhu Jiansheng, where is Yin Chuan playing chess? Miss Z thought for a moment and asked. I heard that he's at Xinglua Mountain Villa. Zhu Jiansheng immediately said. Well, alright, since we're waiting here, let's go and have a look. Miss Z said after thinking for a while. Alright. Zhu Jiansheng replied. Senior, let me lead you there. Lu Jin immediately stepped forward and said. Eunuch Lu? That's good too. Zhu Jiansheng immediately laughed. Another month and a half later, Star Luo Mountain Villa. Within the rolling white fog, Yin Chuan and Yi Feng were playing Go. Climb the 9-5 again. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. A piece was placed on the 9-5 position again. Long live His Majesty. Long live His Majesty. Within the Cloud Sea, Yin Chuan's army cheered loudly. Their powerful aura pressed down on the Cloud Sea territory controlled by Yi Feng. Is the 9-5 again? Yi Feng said with a gloomy face. This time, the 9-5 was different from the previous time. At least, it wasn't like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, but it was still slightly stronger. Yi Feng held a white piece between his index and middle fingers and was about to place it down. However, he couldn't place it down. It was as if there was a huge force forcing him not to place it down. Long live the Emperor. Long live the Emperor. The surrounding noise made Yi Feng frown. Phew. Yi Feng placed the white piece back into the bowl and stopped placing it down. Now that we've played this game of chess, you should know what you're thinking. Yin Chuan smiled. Looking at Yin Chuan, Yi Feng had a complicated look in his eyes. He gently shook his head and said, What guarantee do you have? What you said is unprecedented. How can I believe you? Chapter 204. Think about your life. You have such high intelligence. You love learning, but you are not a fool. Otherwise, you would have written books and entered the Hanlin Academy. But you did not. You are just a grand tutor. Do you like power? I think that is not the case. As the grand tutor, you arranged the chess pieces of the Yen state and doubled the size of the Yen state's territory. Double. That's not just wanton plundering. You also have to consider the patriarchs of the immortal sects in the surrounding countries. Not only did you fight against 4 countries, you also used your intelligence to fight against 5 people from the immortal sects. They didn't even notice. Or perhaps it's because of your methods that they didn't dare to do anything about it. Immortals? So what if they are immortals? You enjoy it. You like to set up the world. You like to manipulate chess pieces to set up a game. Yin Chuan stared at Yi Feng. I like it, but it is not enough. You are not enough to convince me. Yi Feng stared at Yin Chuan. Not enough? Then I will give you another reason why you must stay and help me. Yin Chuan smiled. Oh. Qin Feiyan. Yin Chuan smiled. Yi Feng's eyes narrowed. I heard from Lu Jin that Yilin accidentally mentioned that you have a flying sky hall. In order to commemorate your dead wife, all the decorations in the hall are arranged in pairs. You must care a lot about this, Qin Feiyan. Yin Chuan laughed. So what if I do? Yi Feng said in a low voice. Clearly he did not like others talking about Qin Feiyan. That is easy. The Julu Academy is only an academy in the Yang realm. You actually want to join a sect that cultivates feng shui. Because a powerful feng shui master can even travel between the 2 realms. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Travel between the 2 realms? Really? Yi Feng's expression was filled with anticipation. Traveling between the 2 realms is indeed possible, but there is a prerequisite. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. After a person dies, they may not necessarily turn into a ghost and enter the underworld. There's a greater chance that their soul will scatter, ending everything once and for all. Do you understand? Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. I don't care. If I die in this life, then so be it. If I don't die, then I will definitely make a trip to the underworld. Yi Feng said solemnly. Haha, you're oversimplifying things. It's not easy for a feng shui master to travel between the two realms, let alone bringing someone else along. Are you suitable to be a feng shui master? Yen Chuan asked with a smile. Yi Feng frowned. The Julu Academy may not be able to give you what you want, but I can. As long as Qin Feitian turns into a ghost, I will send you to the netherworld one day. Because in my celestial empire, all rivers flow into the sea. All lands under the heavens belong to the emperor, and all lands on the shores of the land belong to the emperor. A feng shui master must also be a subject. If you help me conquer this vast land, a large number of feng shui masters will help you open up the path of yin and yang. My celestial empire can even extend to the netherworld, commanding thousands of ghosts and help you find Qin Feitian. What do you think? Yen Chuan said again. Yi Feng stared at Yen Chuan in shock. How can I believe you? Yi Feng's expression changed. Seeing Yi Feng's change in expression, Yen Chuan knew that he was about to succeed. After 2 months of hard work, he was finally about to convince Yi Feng. Otherwise, Yi Feng's expression would still be unchanged. Yen Chuan smiled faintly, holding the chessboard in his hand. Bah! He flipped the chessboard over. The chess pieces immediately scattered on the ground. Rumble. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and a large number of lightning bolts struck down. The rolling lightning caused the lake water to splash in all directions, and the mist slowly dissipated under the lightning. At the side, Yi Lin stared at the chessboard with wide eyes. The game isn't over yet. Yi Lin shouted. However, Yi Feng and Yen Chuan didn't care. It was just a game of chess, so what if it was over? The rolling mist dissipated, slowly revealing the scenery by the lake. At this moment, there were thousands of people surrounding the small lake. A group of chess masters, Meng Rongrong VI, the Dugu Sword Emperor, Yen Wudi, Yen Emperor, Huo Guang, Lu Jin, Dan Qingzi, Zhu Jiansheng's 8, and Miss Si. Behind Huo Guang, there were nearly 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army. After leaving for more than 2 months, the 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army had all returned. Greetings, my king. The 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army bowed respectfully. At the side, Yen Emperor's expression changed. King. Not the Lord? He hadn't abdicated yet. Yen Emperor was infuriated, but he suppressed the anger in his heart. How did it go? Yen Chuan placed his hands behind his back and looked at the 3,000 embroidered uniform army. Ka. Nearly 500 embroidered uniform army soldiers each took out a box from behind them. The box slowly opened, revealing bloody human heads inside. The heads of the Chu Kingdom's emperor, royalty, and officials are here. The heads of the Han Kingdom's emperor, royalty, and officials are here. The heads of the Wei Kingdom's emperor, royalty, and officials are here. The group of embroidered uniform army soldiers reported. What? Yen Emperor exclaimed immediately. The heads of the emperor, royalty, and officials are here? Yen Emperor knew that the embroidered uniform army had gone out on a mission and had just returned, but no one expected them to do such a thing. Was this considered the destruction of the 3 dynasties? The 3 dynasties that were as famous as the Yen state were all destroyed? Yen Emperor could not believe it. However, Yen Emperor was too familiar with the portraits of these heads. Yen Emperor had already overestimated the might of the embroidered uniform army. However, he did not expect the embroidered uniform army to be so terrifying. In the past 2 months, they actually managed to charge into the 3 dynasties' capitals and kill the people with the highest authority. On the other side, Dan Qingzi also looked at the heads in shock. At the same time, he looked at Yen Chuan and felt a chill. Yen Chuan's insults from the past were still vivid in his mind. He is not insulting me. Is he telling the truth? Dan Qingzi felt a chill in his heart. These 500 people decided the military affairs of the 3 dynasties. Over the years, they caused the deaths of nearly 500,000 soldiers and soldiers of the Yen state. Now they are all dead. Do you think you can trust me now? Yen Chuan said with a smile. Yi Feng slightly closed his eyes as he faced everyone, as if immersed in a final mental struggle. Yi Feng, since the game of Go is over, you should give me an answer. Meng Rongrong said sullenly. Chapter 205. Yi Feng, since the game is over, you should give me an answer. Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. Meng Rongrong stepped forward. In the past 2 months, Meng Rongrong had experienced a sense of defeat that she had never felt before. From absolute confidence in the beginning, to irritation in her heart, to worry about her gains and losses. Meng Rongrong was also a strong chess player. Although she might not be better than Yan Chuan and Yi Feng, she could at least understand the game. As the chess pieces were placed, Meng Rongrong seemed to have noticed the change in Yi Feng's mentality. Change? Was the Julu Academy really that good? Could it not be better than a tiny Yen state? What kind of joke was this? Yi Feng still had his eyes closed, but Yan Chuan looked at Meng Rongrong. Yan Chuan did not speak. He only smiled slightly, but this smile was like a slap to Meng Rongrong's face. Umph. Meng Rongrong snorted and ignored Yan Chuan. At this moment Yi Feng's eyes slowly opened. Thank you for your kindness, senior. This old one is old and does not want to suffer anymore. I just want to live out my remaining years in peace. Yi Feng said. His voice was calm, revealing his inner peace. What? Yi Feng, what did you say? Think carefully. Changqing exclaimed. Are you crazy? Do you really want to die? Meng Rongrong had a premonition, but Changqing and the other 4 were not prepared. They were stunned by Yi Feng's words. Grandpa, what are you doing? They want to help you become an immortal, why don't you? Behind him, Yi Lin suddenly exclaimed. Grandpa has his own plans when he does things. Don't interrupt. Yi Feng said indifferently. But. Yi Lin was going crazy. Alright, Grandpa isn't as smart as you? Yi Feng said calmly. Yi Lin calmed down immediately. That's right, in the Yi family who would dare to say that they were smarter than Yi Feng? Although Yi Lin had thousands of ideas in his heart, compared to his grandfather's wisdom, he could forget about it. What benefits did Yan Chuan give you? Or rather, how did he force you? Meng Rongrong was still unwilling to give up. Yan Chuan smiled. Miss Meng, you're framing me? Shut up. Meng Rongrong scolded. Meng Rongrong was defeated for the first time in her life. Meng Rongrong could not believe it and was unwilling to accept it. Shut up? Miss Meng, don't forget what you said before. You're the young mistress of the Julu Academy. Do you need me to teach you the word, trust? Yan Chuan shouted. Meng Rongrong was speechless at Yan Chuan's words. Back then she had personally promised Yan Chuan that as long as Yi Feng was unwilling to go to the Julu Academy, she would not force him. But now, Yi Feng also shook his head. Senior, this is my own idea. I'm sorry? Did you hear that? Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Meng Rongrong's expression changed. Even though she was wearing a bamboo hat, from her clenched fists, one could see the indignation in her heart. Let's go. Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. Yes. Changqing and the others replied. With a wave of her sleeve, Meng Rongrong led the 5 of them into the sky. As they flew, Meng Rongrong turned her head and gave Yan Chuan a deep look, deeply engraving this hateful fellow into her memory. Then she led the 5 of them away. After Meng Rongrong left, Dan Qingzi called out. Yan Chuan, where's my junior apprentice brother? Dan Qingzi called out. As soon as Dan Qingzi called out, his 7 friends also stepped forward, looking as if they were about to confront Yan Chuan. Dan Qingzi and the others stepped forward. Zhu Jiansheng also stepped forward with his 7 junior apprentice brothers, guarding against Dan Qingzi's sudden attack. Chapter 206. Yan Chuan glanced at Dan Qingzi, then turned to Yan Emperor. Yan Chuyu, have you handed over the 42 cities? Yan Chuan asked. Yes. Yan Emperor nodded. Yan Chuan nodded. Did you hear that? Zheng has kept its promise. Let them go. Dan Qingzi shouted. Ho Guang. Let them go. Yan Chuan didn't press the issue. Yes, I've brought them here. I'll bring them out immediately. Ho Guang answered. With a wave of his hand, the embroidered uniformed soldiers quickly walked out of the valley. Soon, the 3 prison carriages were pulled into the valley. Prison carriages? Dan Qingzi recognized them at a glance. Qing. He quickly lifted the curtains of the prison carriages, revealing the 3 people inside. Lu Gang, 3rd senior brother, and the Crown Prince of Zheng. Lu Gang and the Crown Prince of Zheng were handcuffed and shackled. They didn't seem to have suffered much. The only one who had suffered was the 3rd senior brother. His shoulder blade had been pierced and he couldn't move at all. 1st senior brother? Lu Gang cried out in surprise. Senior, the Crown Prince of Zheng said excitedly. 1st senior brother, save me. Save me. The 3rd senior brother was so emotional that tears were coming out of his eyes. This period of imprisonment was a darkness that third senior brother had never experienced in his life. Shing, shing, shing. Dan Qingzi's friends stabbed their swords, instantly tearing the cage apart. First senior brother. Quick, take me away. The third senior brother grabbed Dan Qingzi after being saved. He wasn't in the mood for revenge, only the fear of leaving this place as soon as possible. His mind seemed to be in a daze. Your junior brother is too cowardly. Piercing his shoulder blade will only hurt for a while. It's not like we tortured him. Look at how scared he is. Also, I've already sent someone to inform the prison to release the others. My Yin state will prepare horses and rations for them to return to their countries. Wu Guang said disdainfully. That's not torture? Dan Qingzi shouted angrily. Yin Chuan said indifferently, take your men and leave. Yin Chuan. You bastard. Your entire family will die a horrible death. Dan Qingzi cursed. Yin Chuan's eyes turned cold and murderous. Suddenly, a purple light flashed and a crisp sound rang out from Dan Qingzi's face. A slap landed on Dan Qingzi's face. It was so powerful that half of Dan Qingzi's face swelled up. Who is it? Dan Qingzi was so anxious that he immediately roared in the direction of the slap. Turning his head, he happened to see a purple-robed woman wearing a golden mask, revealing a pair of eyes that were staring coldly at him. At first he was anxious, but in an instant, he felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Dan Qingzi's face trembled as he looked at the woman in fear. Miss Z, why did you hit me? Dan Qingzi, if I hear you curse Yin Chuan again, I'll take your life. The woman in purple said coldly. Dan Qingzi opened his mouth in shock. Dan Qingzi did not understand why Miss Z was protecting Yin Chuan. However, today Dan Qingzi once again experienced the grievance of that day. What? Why are you protecting him? Dan Qingzi said resentfully. There's no reason. Now take your men and scram. The woman in purple said coldly. Dan Qingzi was at a loss for words. At this moment, Dan Qingzi did not know what to say. This matter was too inexplicable. The woman in purple walked towards Dan Qingzi step by step. As she approached, the expressions of Dan Qingzi's friends changed drastically, and they quickly retreated. Leaving Dan Qingzi alone was like a lone boat on the ocean facing a storm. Chapter 207. She didn't give off any aura as she walked closer. Miss Z, don't come any closer. I know I was wrong. We'll leave immediately. Dan Qingzi shouted. Miss Z stopped when she heard Dan Qingzi's shout. Let's go. Dan Qingzi felt quite unwilling as he led everyone out. He walked incredibly quickly, grabbing 3 people and leaping out of the valley. Before he left, he didn't forget to glare at Yin Chuan with hatred. Yin Chuan just smiled at this look and turned to look at Miss Z in surprise. She didn't give off any killing intent or aura. Dan Qingzi and the others were scared out of their wits. Also, Zhu Jiansheng and the others seemed to know Miss Z, but they were also avoiding her. What were they afraid of? Yin Chuan looked at Miss Z strangely, then turned to the Dugu Sword Emperor and Yen Wudi. Have you paid your respects to the Dugu Sword Emperor? Yin Chuan smiled. Yes, I have. I feel much better now. This time I brought Wudi back to say goodbye. Everyone else has said their goodbyes. You are the only one left. I didn't expect to see such a big game of chess before leaving. Dugu Jianwang said with a smile. Congratulations, you've put down one of your worries. Yin Chuan smiled. The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. Yes, I've put down some of my worries. Don't worry, I'll do what I promised you. I'll bring Wudi back to the Dugu family soon. Yin Chuan nodded and turned to Yen Wudi. Uncle Wang, thank you. Yen Wudi said sincerely. Lu Jing. Yin Chuan called. Yes. Lu Jing quickly took out a bag. She handed it to Yen Wudi. Puzzled, Yen Wudi took the bundle and gently opened it. There were 50 books inside. Books. Yen Wudi was slightly taken aback. These are the 50 most authentic books on the art of war in the Yen state. I approve of you following the Dugu Sword Emperor to learn the art of the sword. However, I also have a request for you. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Uncle Wang, please speak. I don't want you to become a dead sword. I want you to become a divine sword with wisdom and thoughts. I've read these 50 books. They contain a lot of military tactics and psychological warfare. They won't be of much help to your cultivation, but they will definitely be beneficial to your intelligence. My request is that you memorize all of these 50 books. Remember, understand them thoroughly. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Yen Wudi looked at the 50 books. His expression changed. Yen Wuti could feel Yen Chuan's kindness. It was a kindness that was truly for his own good. After taking a deep breath, Yen Wuti bowed deeply to Yen Chuan. "Uncle Wang, don't worry. I will remember Uncle Wang's words," Yen Wuti said solemnly. Yen Emperor's expression was complicated. Even his son didn't seem to respect him that much. "All right, you can go now." Yen Chuan nodded in satisfaction. "Dugu Sword Emperor, we'll meet again," Yen Chuan said with a smile. "We'll meet again." The Dugu Sword Emperor nodded. He waved his sleeves and took Yen Wuti to the sky. They disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. At this moment, a small boat arrived at the island in the middle of the lake. Yen Chuan, Yi Feng and Yi Lin boarded the small boat and slowly sailed to the shore. They reached the shore. "Yen Chuan, did you ask the Grand Tutor to come out of seclusion?" Yen Emperor stepped forward and asked with a smile. Yi Feng smiled and said, "Yen Emperor, you must be joking. I'm old. How can I come out of seclusion?" Yen Emperor was slightly stunned. "Yi Feng and I only played a game of chess. Yen Chuyu, don't think too much," Yen Chuan said with a smile. Yen Emperor was stunned again. Then Yen Emperor felt depressed. Even a fool could see that Yi Feng gave up on entering the Immortal sect to help Yen Chuan. Now he actually said that he didn't want to enter the Yen state? "I've used up too much energy these days. I need to go back and rest. Goodbye," Yi Feng said with a smile. As he spoke, Yi Feng and Yi Lin walked into the depths of the valley with the help of a group of household servants. They left behind an embarrassed Yen Emperor. Chapter 208. Yen Chuyu. Yen Chuan said with a smile. "Oh?" Yen Emperor looked at Yen Chuan. "Chu State, Wei State and Korea State are without a leader at this moment," Yen Chuan said with a smile. Yen Emperor suddenly widened his eyes and looked at Yen Chuan in surprise. Previously, he was only surprised by the strength of the embroidered uniform army. Now Yen Emperor understood what Yen Chuan meant. Without a leader, the three kingdoms were like dragons without a leader. It was the best time to attack cities and seize territory. "I understand, haha." Yen Emperor suddenly laughed. "I'll have to trouble you from now on," Yen Chuan said with a smile. "Don't worry, I'll do my best and wait for your return." "Okay." Yen Chuan nodded. "Is the Grand Preceptor really not coming out?" "If he comes out, he will definitely help our Yen state to conquer the three countries faster," Yen Emperor said after thinking for a while. "No need, the Grand Preceptor is too old. Let's not disturb him anymore." Yen Chuan shook his head. "All right." Yen Emperor nodded. "I've just finished a game of chess. I'll rest here for a while. Before going to the Day sect, I'll go to Yenjing to say goodbye to you." Yen Chuan looked at Yen Emperor and said, "Okay. Then I'll go back and hold a court meeting." Yen Emperor nodded. After sending off Yen Emperor, Yen Chuan looked at the 8 people of the Day sect and the woman in purple again. "Yen Chuan, you're amazing. I didn't expect you to make such a big move in this game of chess." "Ah." Zhu Jiansheng suddenly laughed. "Not bad, I've never seen anything like this before." One of Zhu Jiansheng's junior brothers laughed. "These are?" Yen Chuan looked at the crowd. "Them? He's my junior brother. Wherever he goes there are 7 of us. The 7 swordsmen of the Day sect. This is the Great Swordsman, the Second Swordsman, the Third Swordsman, the 7 Swordsmen," Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. "Senior brother." The 7 of them immediately blushed. "Haha, didn't you like this name? Just call me that, it's fine. Anyway, you're used to being called that." Zhu Jiansheng laughed. The 7 of them felt helpless, but from their expressions, there was a sense of complacency. Yen Chuan was slightly startled. Sure enough, birds of a feather flocked together. Zhu Jiansheng was a free and unrestrained person, but the 7 swordsmen were very narcissistic. "Greetings, 7 swordsmen," Yen Chuan said with a smile. You're welcome, you're welcome." The 7 of them exchanged pleasantries. "And this is?" Yen Chuan looked at the purple-clothed woman with a golden mask. "Miss Z?" Zhu Jiansheng looked at Yen Chuan with a strange expression. Miss Z spoke first. "I'll go back to my residence in Yenjing first. Yen Chuan, after you've rested, come and see me. I have something to tell you." With that, Miss Z turned around and walked out of the valley. Yen Chuan was puzzled. Zhu Jiansheng and the others watched Miss Z leave, then looked at Yen Chuan with a strange expression. "What's wrong? Who is she?" Yen Chuan asked with a puzzled expression. "No way, Yen Chuan, have you really forgotten? She's your wife," Zhu Jiansheng said with a strange expression. Yen Chuan, who had always been calm, was also confused by the question. What was going on? What? It's normal that Dan Qingzi doesn't know. It's also normal that we don't know. After all, she has always been very mysterious and never went to the Day sect. But we all know that you have a fiancé, no, a child bride. It seems that when you were young, your parents arranged this marriage for you. Don't you remember? Zhu Jiansheng said with a strange expression. That's right, I only found out 2 months ago that Miss Z is actually your fiancé. Awesome. The great swordsman gloated. Yes, Junior Yan Chuan, tell me, what were your thoughts when you had a wife when you were young? Second swordsman laughed. Chapter 209. Let's not talk about your childhood. What are your thoughts now? The 5 swordsmen laughed. The group of people from the Immortal sect was now asking Yan Chuan curiously. Wu Guang, Lu Jin, and the others had strange expressions on their faces. Go, don't disturb the Lord. Wu Guang ordered the embroidered uniform army to leave. At the same time he asked the chess masters to leave. Yan Chuan was also confused. Fiancé? After taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan said, I have forgotten most of my memories. Can you help me recall? Yes, you have soulless syndrome. The 4 swordsmen raised their eyebrows. Sigh, what a pity. This is the first time I've seen someone with a child bride. I really want to know how he feels. The 7 swordsmen said regretfully. Black lines appeared on Yan Chuan's forehead. This group of people were quite sanctimonious when they didn't open their mouths, but now that they opened their mouths, why, all right, stop fooling around. Zhu Jiansheng shouted. Oh. The 7 people nodded. Yan Chuan, you really don't remember? I don't remember. Yan Chuan nodded. Yes, you should have been very young back then. Your mother should have arranged this marriage for you. We all heard a little about it, but we didn't know who it was. 2 months ago, I heard that Dan Qingzi was going to bring people to make trouble for you at the drunken Immortal restaurant. I scolded him and then gathered these 7 junior brothers to protect you in advance. Zhu Jiansheng said solemnly. Thank you very much. Yan Chuan nodded. Who knew that Miss Z would find out about that quarrel? Later on, she came to find me and showed me a certificate that your father had left behind. She asked me to bring her to see you. Zhu Jiansheng said solemnly. When I returned to the sect, I met the sect leader and all the uncles in the sect. They confirmed that Miss Z is indeed your fiancé. Fiancé? Yan Chuan had a strange expression on his face. Yes. Zhu Jiansheng nodded solemnly. When I saw you before, you were all afraid of her. What? Yan Chuan asked curiously. The 7 swordsmen's expressions changed almost at the same time. What's wrong? Yan Chuan asked again. Zhu Jiansheng smiled bitterly. Looking at Yan Chuan, he seemed to be unable to say anything, he thought, then sighed. Well. Alright, so be it. I'll tell you. But this is just my personal opinion. You must not tell Miss Z. Zhu Jiansheng laughed bitterly. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded. No one knows what Miss Z's full name is. We only know that she's called Miss Z and lives in Carefree City. Carefree City is similar to a city in the mortal world, but it's many times stronger. There are many shops opened by cultivators in the city. The sky-shaking bow, sun-shooting arrows, sky-piercing spear, etc. that you want were all bought by me in Carefree City. Zhu Jiansheng explained. Carefree City? Yes, continue. Miss Z has been living in Carefree City for more than 10 years. I've never heard of any power behind her, but in the entire Carefree City, no one dares to offend her. Zhu Jiansheng said. What? She's. Zhu Jiansheng looked awkward as if he couldn't say it. Say it, it's fine. I won't blame you. Yan Chuan shook his head. Yes, Miss Z's cultivation isn't high, but no one dares to go near her. Because whoever goes near her will be unlucky. No one can tell why. Zhu Jiansheng said strangely. Chapter 210. Oh. For example, Dan Qingzi is also a lecher. Once he saw Miss Z. She was wearing a mask, but Dan Qingzi saw that her figure was better, so he recklessly approached her. Just when he was about 10 feet away from Miss Z, suddenly, Zhu Jiansheng's eyes widened. What's wrong? Yan Chuan asked curiously. A huge hammer suddenly fell from the sky and hit Dan Qingzi's head. You don't know how tragic that scene was. A large part of Dan Qingzi's scalp was smashed off, and his face was badly mutilated. Half of his body was smashed into the ground, and he was on the verge of death. It was a fight between 2 experts, and Dan Qingzi was unlucky enough to be hit by it. Zhu Jiansheng said. Yan Chuan asked curiously. That's not all. Anyone who gets close to Miss Z, regardless of whether they have good intentions or bad intentions, doesn't have a good ending. Truly, they are all undeserved disasters, inexplicable disasters. Zhu Jianxing said. Such a thing happened? Is it a coincidence? Yin Chuan frowned. Coincidence? It's a coincidence, but it's all a coincidence. It happens 100 times a year. Even if one doesn't get unlucky on the spot, it won't be long before they get unlucky. It's too strange. The three swordsmen trembled. Is there such a thing? Of course it happened to me once. That day I bought a bottle of elixirs in a shop. At that time I saw the shop assistants hiding from me in fear. I didn't know what was going on until I turned my head and realized that they weren't hiding from me, but from Miss Z. Because someone concluded that as long as they stayed 2 feet away from Miss Z, they wouldn't be affected, but I was only 10 feet away from her. Do you know what 10 feet is? Cold sweat appeared on the three swordsmen's forehead. 10 feet? What happened after that? Everyone looked at the three swordsmen. I was fine at that time, but a month later my disaster came. The three swordsmen said with a sad face. What disaster? I spent 10 years of my savings to buy 3 bottles of pills, but they're all fakes. My long sword made of mysterious platinum was broken when I was killing a trash demon. I was also involved in a fight between 2 immortal state experts for no reason. I was chased by the 2 immortal state experts and got lost in the territory of an immortal state demonic beast. That demonic beast made me. That's right. That's why I'm not a human anymore. The most hateful thing is that my lover of 80 years actually eloped with a kid in the essence stage. My God, that kid is ugly, poor, and useless. She's blind. The three swordsmen recalled with a face full of grief and hatred. Zhu Jiansheng and the others looked at them with pity. The three swordsmen were too pitiful. Yin Chuan had a strange expression on his face as he said, maybe it's a coincidence. What coincidence? I'm not the only one. Many people have the same experience. Wherever Miss Z goes, it's like a big explosion blowing up everyone. The three swordsmen shook their heads and said, yes, that's why Dan Qingzi was so scared when he saw Miss Z. The great swordsman said, I heard that Miss Z is the reincarnation of a jinx. I've heard that Miss Z is a cursed loner. I heard that Miss Z is the reincarnation of a jinx. Everyone was talking about Miss Z in fear. That's enough. Yin Chuan frowned. Everyone suddenly became quiet and looked at Yin Chuan. No matter what, Miss Z is my fiancée. Let's end the introduction here. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, okay. Everyone nodded and stopped talking. Yin Chuan, I know it's wrong to talk about someone's fiancée behind their back, but what we said is true. She's really strange. I just want to remind you. Zhu Jiansheng said seriously. Okay, I know. Yin Chuan nodded. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.